Lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the night for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. Drunk and young, I asked him, walking home, but an aloof response had me on my own without you. I stumble on, all alone, with DMVs. Where are you gone? On repeat in my dome, so blue. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. You pick me up, don't you know you got a hold on me? It brings me down in only ways that you can see. You keep me close, then you go ahead and run from me, and hit me up when you're lonesome and need company. Wayward mind, lost it blind. Why do I climb these heights for you?
Hardware, software. They do on-site for home and businesses. Dylan and Cam, again, celebrating 1 year of bricks and mortar. We're so happy to be partnering with them and them being a huge part of this broadcast. So tip of the cap to those fine gentlemen.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
We owe a lot of gratitude to those two guys. And we were just talking to Dylan actually before he left, the show started, and he was asking us, when are you going to need me up in that executive lounge? And I said, well, it'll be in the new year when we reveal the top 50 junior players. But yeah, that's going to be exciting. And Dylan and Cameron are going to look after us, Clarkie, and make sure that everything works properly so that we can reveal the top 50 from the executive lounge at the Almond.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a great setting. It's going to be a great list. We've talked about it before, and it's almost an impossible task, but we're looking forward to it all.
Yeah, I've had one list turned in already of the 15, so just waiting for the other 4 guys, and then we'll get everybody together in the new year and try and whittle that thing down to 50.
So for those of you listening or watching that don't know, to my right is the Director of Hockey Operations for the local Stratford Junior B Warriors, Jason Clark. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad
And
to be here.
and Holly.
Yeah. Hey, he lived up the last minute Larry Friday night. We needed a PA guy down at the Almond. Brian said, "Sure, I'll do it." Don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And
No.
we gave him everything, and he flew right through it. Except it was kind of funny on Colin Slattery's goal. He's known the kid forever.
Yeah.
Didn't know his first name.
Yeah, full disclosure, I grew up beside his dad, like literally next door, and knew this kid from about the time he was 9, watching him on the ball field, and then Lewis got the goal, and I announced Cole Lewis, and the assist by number 19, Slattery. And that's all that came out was Slattery, and then I couldn't remember. By the time I did the read back, I had it, but, it's a sign of age,
Yeah.
the first sign, the
I
onset
hear
of
ya.
senility, and Razor.
I hear you, brother.
And so, but otherwise, yeah, thanks for the invite. It was a lot of fun. It's something that I have done before, but not for a long time. And
No, everybody.
hopefully I was intelligible.
Everybody was
Yes.
appreciative of it. And
Yes, you were for sure. And on behalf of the hockey club, thank you too. And it speaks volumes again. Stratford,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
A call goes out, someone steps up, makes the machine work, no matter what it is. So
I tried to make a trade for the general, but got
And-
nixed.
And Holly, just for the record, I wasn't trying to shoo you off. It's important that you're here. Glad you're here, bud. Brian Holly.
Yeah.
I expect nothing else. I mean, it's I've got another hour to get you back for that. Don't you worry.
All right.
Patience.
Love it.
Couple afternoon games this afternoon for the holiday season.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was just doing the thing for the podcast, episode 45 here, and I just put what a mess with it is with New York teams, because there's 2 of them that are just horrible right now.
Yep.
Mike Neckel, assistant coach of the Warriors, is a big Sabres fan. He was contemplating changing teams on Sunday.
How do you suppose
After
that
they-
happened? Sorry
After
to
they've gone 13 games in a row without a win, so it's tough times in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Can anybody point to a reason for it, though?
I can only say that it started with Eichel. They had a guy who, let's face it, he's certainly one of the top 20 players in the world, and they had him, and they maltreated him, and he buggered off,
Yeah.
and they haven't been the same since.
Well,
Did they maltreat him, Holly, or was it a lot of immaturity on his behalf?
He wanted a procedure done
Okay.
that was not in line with what the Sabres
Oh, you're talking about his injury.
exactly.
Okay.
The next.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And, that was what started the fight, is that he wanted to have a procedure done that was not in line with the medical people from the Sabres.
yeah, and the Sabres wouldn't pay for
And the
it.
Sabres weren't
Yeah.
having it. And
And Vegas, Kelly McCrimmon went, yeah, sure. Is that all we got to do? We got to pay
Why
for
not?
your surgery? Yeah, come on in. We'll make a deal for you. And
And
He-
I don't
he went over
remember what they gave up for him, but they didn't give up his value. You can be darn sure of that.
we got to get Chester to type
Alex,
in. and
Alex
on-
Tuck came over, right?
Tuck, yeah. They got
From
Tuck.
Was it?
Vegas.
Yep.
Well,
That's part of that deal?
You just got to go down the list. They had Eichel. They had Sam Reinhart.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's an inability to evaluate talent properly.
Well, and that Darlene kid came out of the draft,
yeah.
who was one of the maybe one of the best players at the World Juniors that year.
Yeah.
And they drafted him, and he hasn't. He's been an okay player, but he's just not panning out for them. So.
Yeah.
Then you had Tag Thompson with his big year.
Yep.
But
Is it
Yeah.
so? Is it the talent or the way they develop it?
Well, even
I
look
don't
at Owen Power, right? He's a very big present defenseman when he's on the ice, and just with this team, and I don't know if it's a system or what, but he gets made a fool of a lot by the opposing team.
It's not a good situation. Even like they interviewed Tag Thompson after he got in the fight, and he said, "Well, I can't do anything else." So even the players are getting down on themselves now, and it's
I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah.
Lindy Ruff was a great move to bring him back for the third time, and I think Lindy Ruff is a Hall of Fame coach, but I don't see. There's a big difference. He's looking at 70 years old, and all I'm saying is when you have 20-year-olds on a team and you got a 70-year-old coach, it's not the same as the 80s and 90s. There's a lot of relationships that need to be built, and I don't think a 20-year-old looks at a 70-year-old coach, even with the standards of Lindy Ruff, and connect with them. I could be wrong, but I think that's a big communication problem But
Yeah.
what do I
No,
that's
good,
why I'm
good
here.
point, right? Like
Relatability is important, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
And like I forgot about Ryan O'Reilly. Like they've had the guys there.
Yeah.
It's just that for whatever reason, and I'm not saying you don't trade away talent, but if you trade away talent, you better be able to restock the cupboard, whether it's picks or guys that are in the farm system that are gonna develop. Like they just have let grade A guys go and get very little in return for them.
Is it also that they got an owner that's so focused on the NFL side of it? He does make a trip to Montreal and talk to the players, but you don't see owners do that. In any other market, I don't think you'll see an owner go and talk to the players.
I think he's more of a hands-off guy, which I think is better for a team. The last thing you want is a guy like Jerry Jones, where he thinks he's the best GM in the league and he embarrasses himself time and time again, making ridiculous moves, overpaying, outbidding yourself for quarterbacks and wide receivers. Like it's laughable.
Well, even after like a loss or whatever, not involved in the game, not involved calling any of the plays for the Cowboys, yet the 20 press go to him over a head coach
Right.
or a player or whatever. So that's just, I think that's ego driven, but
Yeah, and so Pagula, he's focused on the Bills. Like they're knocking on the door, right, of the Super Bowl if they can get by KC. But at the end of the day, I think a GM would love to have an owner like that, where he pays the money. Hey, we got a guy. We think he can help the team. He's never balked. Now he doesn't have many guys wanting to come to Buffalo, but he seems to be a guy where it falls on the general manager. At the end of the day, Lindy Ruff can only do what he's given. He can't make wine from water. And if you don't have the horses, it's pretty tough to play the left wing lock or whatever defensive system you choose to, try and keep it out of your net and hope for a Hail Mary and get a goal or two. So
Yeah, I would say they need to look at their organizational goals, right? Like, what is it? What are we doing here?
Right.
They haven't been great for a long time, and is that by design? Is that by how they run their program, what they do? Like, I mean, they're a pro hockey club. It's be easy to talk with guys and look around the league and see how things are done in other places. And what are we missing here? Why isn't this
right.
a destination team? Why, when we get stars, we get great draft picks, why don't they stay? Why don't they flourish here? All things like that, I think. And bringing Lindy back, I think they're probably trying to rekindle.
Yeah.
The team they had when they had him here, when they had him there years ago.
The history.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously it's not working right now. But I think just a real internal look inside. Like I think back to my coaching days and a lot of things we talk about in Stratford here as well is, when the team's not doing well at a certain thing, we often reflect back on a few practices and see, what? We haven't done that practice in a month and a half.
Right.
We need to get back to that because we've forgotten that. We're not doing it. So, I think some good self-reflection by that group and that ownership group and the coaching staff and the players even to see where they're at, to see if they can turn the ship.
Well, what's interesting is that I've talked to a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh, who the hell would want to go to Buffalo? Like, it's the armpit." And I'm like, "Well, let's think about this. Who would want to go to Detroit?"
Right.
Right? It's arguably just as bad as Buffalo is, but yet when you have a winning team and a winning tradition, it's funny how you're able to go out and find guys at the trade deadline and free agents that want to come there to win.
Yeah, and I mean, Buffalo, I'm sure we've all been there when they've been remotely decent.
Right.
They draw a great crowd, and it's a great
Yeah.
atmosphere.
it's a great arena.
Yeah.
in that rink too, right?
It really is.
It's just doing whatever they need to do to
Yeah.
get back to that level, just to be competitive.
Exactly.
Give us a shot to win each and every night. The people will come. Players will want to come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the National Hockey League.
Well, look
Yeah.
at that one experiment that failed too with Reinhardt, Taylor Hall, and Jeff Skinner. Like, just they had
Right.
4 points by Christmas between the
Yeah.
three of them. 4
Yeah.
points. You heard
Yeah.
that correctly. Like,
Yeah.
it and those to me are at least valid attempts to get something going. But I mean, you look at Darlene that Holly referred to. Like, he was a stud like in his first year, 2 years, but now he's just kind of fallen into that Buffalo flu where you just kind of mix in with the fabrics and.
Hope you get traded.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard
change
to
of
say,
scenery,
but,
right?
but I couldn't agree with you more, Clarky, about the opportunity culture in Buffalo. You got to win to put bums in the seats, but I've been to a Thanksgiving game when they played the Habs, and that sucker was full, and it was awesome. They really do a nice job with the in-game experience. Great fans from both sides, and it's a nice intimate rink, so it's not anything too crazy size-wise. But
I like the rink.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great rink.
Especially
There's not a bad seat there.
No, great sight lines, good concourse, really good sight lines coming in.
But
Some nice history there for the history that they have for a team that hasn't won the cup yet. They still still got some good history. They've got, I would say, as good a history as any team that's never won a cup.
Yeah.
We used to, at the arenas, when Ange Nigro was still alive, it was so good to just be sitting having coffee with him on break, and he would go over old stories like with Jerry Desjardins, Jerry Corab, Don Luce, Gilles Perreault, Rennie Robert. Like, it was
the French
amazing.
connection,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like
Yeah,
you know,
Donnie Luce.
Jerry
unreal.
Corab.
Right. King Kong Korab. Yeah. Like, and you would just sit there in awe, and he'd be going on. And I think I've told the story before where Tim Horton went up to Ange and said, hey, Ange, I'm starting up this coffee and donut shop. I don't know if it's going to fly or not. Do you want to invest in it? Like, fuck, I want to invest in that, Tim. Who the hell's going to buy coffee? And he says,
Well,
I
and
missed out on that.
He didn't get his nickname for nothing.
Right?
Remember his nickname? Short arms, deep pockets. That was his nickname. I worked for him at the rink, too.
Oh,
And,
I love him.
Oh, man,
He taught me
What a
how to
character
drive
that dude was.
the Flutter, and I'll never forget it. So I'm doing it's the day, a day shift. This is before the Rotary Complex was built. So I'm on my first shift. I'm on the Olympia, and I'm driving around, and he's like a racer. When you're going up the middle, try and line yourself up with the 18th pane of glass. And I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm telling Chris Campbell this on break, and he's like, Fultz, why the fuck would you have him train Razor, to be like, he says, I'm sure there could have been other guys that could have shown him how to drive it. And I'm just shaking my head going, hey, I'm just don't shoot the messenger, man. But
that explains some things I saw with you driving the
Right? Leaving a couple of moons here and there. So
6 or 8 extra laps.
Right.
Just to get that one spot.
That's right. That's right.
Come around one more time. I swear, just one more time. Let me get that strip.
I almost said that to the guy the one night in Alvinston, and it was noticeable. Like, it was about an 8-foot strip, 3 feet wide, and myself and another guy are looking at each other, and I go, he's not going to leave that, is he? And he goes, I think he is. And we were banging the glass, and the guy wouldn't look at us. He's like, I don't want to acknowledge that I just screwed the ice up.
Well,
Anyways.
we also got another team in New York that's not fair to all the Rangers. They lost today.
Lost 5-0 to
The
Jersey.
Leafs lost today too. So
Right.
but-
But that was to Winnipeg, though. But
Winnipeg, who? Right,
Yeah.
Brian?
I never said it like that. I just said, who are they?
Yeah,
They're a
who
good
are
hockey
they?
club,
Yeah.
but
Winnipeg,
they
who?
exactly?
Winnipeg, who? We're sticking with the
In
Winnipeg.
fairness,
who.
Buffalo's probably the American version of Winnipeg.
The
as far
Rangers.
as the draw goes.
The Rangers are like a dysfunctional family right now.
very much so.
I just think a simple divorce and mom leaving with the kids is going to fix that.
Well, it's going to be interesting what happens because you got Chris Drury that started back in July at the draft where he was asking Trouba for the teams for him to go to. So it all started rumbling there. And then everybody knows how he basically told Trouba, either you give me some teams to deal you to, or we're throwing you on waivers and you're not going to have a say. And like, that was just a horse shit move. And, legal, but the optics are terrible. And so they from what I read, the players had a meeting with Drury voicing their displeasure. Now they healthy scratched the assistant,
Chris Kreider.
Chris Kreider. Like, what are you doing?
I think they don't want him hurt till the
'Cause they're
trade
looking to
deadline.
move him.
The trade freeze
Right.
lifts, right? So
Having said that, they're trying to get the room back, and it sure sounds
Oh,
like
it's a
they
mess.
lost it.
like, is Laviolette, on walking on
Probably.
pins and needles? Like, what has to happen there? Like, these guys were Stanley Cup not favorites, but contenders.
At the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
they were.
In the East, they were one of the
Yeah.
favorites for sure.
So
And I always appreciate the topics, but does anybody want to talk about any of the top 20 teams in the league? Jesus.
Well,
as much
No,
fun to talk about.
just
if you heard
function.
nothing else
Yeah.
recently,
Yeah.
people love to hate on people.
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah.
but
It's
well,
true.
what about speaking of top 20 teams? What about Zach Hyman being one of the hottest guys in the league right now?
Took a slap shot to the face to wake him up, but
Yeah.
he's there.
Well, you know what? Since being left off Team Canada earlier this month, he scored a league high 8 goals in 7 games after scoring just 3 in his first 20. So he's got
set a record last night. Most consecutive games with 2 goals or something for
Oh,
the
really?
Oilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so he's got
Considering the guys that played there.
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
8 goals are 2 more than Draisaitl, who's having a great year, 5 more than McDavid, 6 more than Rocket Richard contender Sam Reinhart. So he is lights out right now.
Bit
But
of
Like
a
you said-
hangover from last year,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
yeah,
You know, there's ups and downs there for sure. And, you know, I don't watch a ton of Edmonton games, but I've watched a few.
It's just because
And,
they're on too late, right?
He's a little snake bitten. Yeah,
sure.
exactly. I'm in bed usually by the time they play. But
yeah.
And you know, Clarky, I agree with you 100%. And I thought, and I would have put money down that Reinhardt would have felt that snake bite. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
He's
That
been
kid
lights
is
out.
just found a groove in
Yeah.
Florida. Eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's taken the next step, right? And I think he's at that level now, and that's his level. And I think Zach Hyman, found a bit of it last year, bit of a slump this year to start, and now he's back finding it there, but he needs to find that consistency
Right.
to stay at that level as well too. He's getting the opportunities, obviously. He just has to finish.
Yeah, he caught the injury bug earlier this year too,
Yeah.
so that doesn't help.
The whole team started off slow
Well,
again,
again.
right?
Yeah.
But what a great move though by Ken Holland, and everybody thought he overpaid when he lured him away from Toronto at $5 million a year, and everyone's like, "What? Is he crazy? Like that looks like a stroke of genius now with
Yeah.
the way salaries have gone, right? Like he's probably like if you compare him to Nylander." There's 11 million. There's a huge difference between those two guys. So
One's finesse and one's lunch pail. So
Right.
it depends what your culture demands. I mean, you've got your finesse and speed with the Draisaitl's and the McDavids. And, when you put a guy like Hyman on there, he's in front of the net. He's
Yeah.
causing problems. He's, being a pest. And, he does get those goalmouth goals, a lot
Yeah.
of them. But
he's willing to
They
go
don't
into
ask
those
how.
dirty areas.
right.
Yeah.
Hey, you watch him on the power play there, right? He gets tight to the post and puts his 2 feet together and just hammer pucks at his feet.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
In the right spot. And
that's a play by design, I'm
occasionally you
sure
get
of
one
it.
in the face.
Yep.
But,
Yo. Did you see him?
that'll work.
Yeah.
Yikes, his face exploded.
Oh, jeez.
What does he say?
Yeah.
Does anybody got a visor you throw on? I want to go back on for the third.
Right? Can you imagine if that was like a soccer game, right? The guy would be
Nope.
shot. Even when they don't get hit, they look like they've
Oh,
been
he'd be down
shot.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd still be there.
Right.
Another interesting game last night was Florida and Tampa Bay. Florida they look head and above everybody in the Eastern Conference right now, and Vasilevsky looks human.
Yeah.
Like he let in a goal last night that I don't think I've ever seen him. He made the first save coming side to side, and then for some reason had his glove inside the net. So when they shot the puck, it was in his glove, but it was inside the net. He just doesn't look like the same
Well,
Andre Vasilevsky
In his
we're used
defense,
to.
they just peppered off 5 in a row.
Yes. Yeah.
The Lightning. So, it's one loss. But I know what you're saying, but, I mean, they're looking good. Their goals for, they're first in the league at 3.9.
Yeah.
Goals against 13th, not polished, but, I mean, you're going to do all right at only 2.9 per game.
Yeah.
But their power plays per in it, and they're 5th in the league. So,
Yeah. But Florida just looks, and they play again tonight. Both teams, true back-to-back.
Like it's amazing. Like I did not think that Florida was going to be up near the top with all the guys that they lost. So Paul
Well,
Maurice has just done a great job.
Yeah.
At, next man up. All the
Well, the
guys. that
GM
were
did a
those-
great job filling in
for
those
sure.
holes, right? Like
For sure. Yeah, he the Buffalo GM could look at the Florida GM for evaluation of talent. Like it's just a no-brainer. But
yeah, I'm not sure who's the GM in Florida.
is it not
I'd have to
Talon?
look it up.
It's not
It
Dale
was
Talon?
Dale
Dale
Talon,
Talon.
but then they got rid of him and this other
I
guy
forget
that
who
they
it is
brought
now.
in.
Yeah, it's the other guy you saw him whipping around.
Oh,
watermelons.
French guy. Jean Brisebois? No. Anyways, he's the one who went toe to toe with Stamkos in the
In
negotiations
Tampa.
and
Yeah,
offered him
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
I think it's Brisebois.
It
Could be wrong.
I'd have to look it up.
But
All right. Get on
So
get on
whoever
the
it is, he's
YouTube
good.
and
here's a question for you.
Jess, who is it? Oh,
So Matthews is out
Yep.
with his nagging wrist injury.
Right.
Been to Germany. He's been out a month. He's back on the shelf. They're going to give him a rest over Christmas.
cross check to the back.
Question for the panel. Does this change the optics on signing Marner with a injury-riddled captain?
I don't think it changed the optics. You're still you're still wanting to sign him, but you're still gonna pay what he's worth. And Marner's not slowing up at all this year. It looks like it's a contract year. We always see that with guys for some reason. They get into their contract year, and like Marner's been steady for the last couple years anyway.
So let me rephrase that. With Matthews' injury problems, do you have to re-sign Marner?
Well, I thought we had to re-sign him anyways.
I think healthy or hurt, like he's just that valuable to
Yeah.
them. And Berube loves him.
At the cost of Tavares leaving town.
I would.
Okay.
I would
I would.
go with Marner.
I would, and it's going to be interesting because, like we've talked about it on previous podcasts, where the market he seems to be looking at is going to, be setting the new standard. Does he demand more than what Matthews is going to be getting? Like, it's going to be interesting. And yeah, Tavares' $11 million is off the books, but geez,
Can you afford $30 million for 2 players in this?
No.
Well, that's that's what they're looking at
Exactly.
to sign what Marner wants.
let me throw a scenario out there, and we call it the Vegas Shuffle, where I think first of all, when you've got a guy with his ability and track record having a nagging injury, excuse me, I think he's got to go poof long term. I think he's got to be gone. You got to get him out. If
Are you
it
talking about
requires-
Matthews?
Yeah,
The Mark
you're-
Stone.
If we're talking about exactly, this is where I'm going with that. If he needs surgery, then get him his surgery, get him out of there, and you can bring him back for playoffs. And then all of a sudden, their cap problems are gone. Their cap problems are poof, and that's what Vegas does.
right.
And why shouldn't Toronto do the same thing? Imagine this: if you
I-
get to the point,
That's a
where
good point.
He goes on LTIR, gets the surgery on the wrist, and gets it fixed. Now, this is all if this is what the wrist requires, but you cannot mess around with your Haas at this point of the season when they're playing well. They're responding to their new coach. They look inconsistent but good when they're not inconsistent. Excuse me again. That's my thing, is that it's time to reevaluate Matthews for the long-term absence and then go get somebody to replace him. And if you need to make moves near the regular season, at the end of the day, that's all I can think about now is what Vegas has done, at least.
Chicago,
Well, I mean,
Tampa.
Yep, you've
But-
seen those teams just hold those guys out,
Yeah.
and then they bring back in the playoffs, and they're 100%.
but you
they
know-
probably
you
could
know
have come
what's-
back 2-3 weeks prior, but they come back first week when there's no payroll.
Right.
But you know what's going to happen though. Toronto does that. They're going to get crucified.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
But
take it
I
personally.
agree.
You
Who
can strap
cares?
me up to a
It'll
cross
be
that
all
has
those
this
fans
kind of,
saying that's wrong. We got to change the rule now. Toronto did it. We got to change the
I
rule.
think
we got to
the-
get rid of the
but I
little-
think the biggest
there's
thing, though,
already
is
people yelling that. But at the
Toronto
end of the day,
fans think they're listened to by the management, and they're
they're
not.
I don't care what the rules are. When I am, with my ball club, I don't care what the rules are. I operate under those rules to whatever the best advantage of my ball club. I don't
Yep,
care.
you're
I don't
right.
care what anybody thinks.
So coming back full circle, the GM is Julian Brisebois in
No.
Tampa Bay.
Bill Zito.
No, it's Julian Brisebois.
Oh, we were
Yeah,
talking
but we were
In
talking
Tampa.
Florida. Florida. We were talking
Yeah.
Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
Bill
thinking
Zito.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I was thinking Tampa Bay
Brisebois,
because they
yeah.
created and were absolutely crucified in the press and
Yes.
the league for bringing back Kucherov
Yep.
the year they won the cup.
Yep.
So here we are, full circle. I
So
guess it's
happened
not too
more
bad
than
of an
once.
idea.
And
Vegas
Tampa
did it.
was
Tampa
the-
did it. Vegas did
Well,
it.
what's
Vegas did it
ironic
again.
is,
Vegas did
is
it
that
twice.
Chicago was the first ones to do it with, I think it was Kane, and Tampa was like, "What the hell is going on?" So they went to the the summer meetings. trying to get the rule changed where a team couldn't do that. They couldn't get enough support. So then what did they do? They used it the very next season with Kucherov and went, all right, you can't beat him, join him.
Bang.
So
Exactly.
Now
So
I
if I'm
remember
Toronto-
Zito, the shaved head.
Yeah, the
in
shaved
the
head,
in the final 7th Stanley Cup final, and he looks like he's like burning holes through people with his glare.
Yeah, I could picture him. I just couldn't put the name
Yeah.
to the guy. But
The glower power.
Clarky,
Yeah, a couple things. For the Marner, if there's a way to keep him, you keep him. Right, he's just too good of a player. If you're going to let him go, you got to think about what you're going to bring in to replace him. And I agree with Brian that if Matthews needs surgery, he's too good of a player and too good of an impact player when he's in the lineup to be in and out when maybe you really need him at a certain point in time. So right now, I think they can continue to march on here without him and still be fine
For
and
sure.
set themselves up. So if it means an extended stay out of the lineup, I would do it as well.
They had a plus 500 record when he was out, did they? not?
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
They
what are
didn't
we
miss a
talking about
beat.
here? You just get more ice time for the other
Yeah.
three.
And you know what? In all honesty, like Marner, I think upped his game a little bit because
So did Tavares.
when Matthews was out, he wasn't looking for him like it was my first option. He was just playing the game and distributing it if it warranted it, but then shooting it if he had
and
a
scoring
chance.
goals. I was just
exactly
going to say, absolutely.
right.
He
And all
started
his-
scoring goals.
All his minutes become available too.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
his minutes, his puck touches, who's shooting the puck, all that becomes available and has to be downloaded on somebody else. Those other guys thrive.
It's going to boil down to how bad he wants to win. And they're going to have to use guys like Mahomes and Brady and Pasternak and guys on teams that have won championships that are willing to take a little bit less than market value in order to try and win a cup. Is he willing to do that? The four of them have not one of them have shown an ounce of care. They're just looking at their own
paydays.
their own paydays, and we all know how that's worked out. So now he's got a chance because, like, in all honesty, right? Like, is his life really going to change if he makes $12 million versus $14 million? Like,
I hear what you're saying, and I can't disagree with it in principle, but at the end of the day, these guys, most of them get one contract. They get one chance at the lottery. And they're going to be done by the time they're 30-something.
but see, a lot of
And
them,
it could all end tomorrow.
a lot of them are taking shorter contracts, so they get two kicks at the can, right? So that they're UFAs again in their early 30s, where the decline hasn't started yet. So it's going to be interesting. He rolled the dice and he's winning right now because.
Well, and I
like,
don't think
he's
I think it's fair to say that under any scenario, the Leafs have to sign Marner.
100%.
I
100%.
could be wrong there, but that's kind of the way I see it.
I think they have to as well.
I mean, where else
you
get a
can't
100-point
replace
guy,
him.
man? I don't care if he does nothing.
So,
in the playoffs.
okay, I was just going to ask that.
That's just
so
it.
another no-show in the playoffs. You're still signing him for
You know
$13
what?
million.
Washington sucked it up for a decade
11 years before
while
Ovechkin.
Ovechkin figured it out in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he was the number one goal scorer of his era.
Yeah.
But he spent 10 years not knowing the first name of the goaltender.
Did he have?
His old goaltender.
But did he have?
Olaf Kolzig.
Did he have 4 cashed-in top 10 draft picks playing with him for 5, 6, 7, 8 years? Ovechkin. The answer is no.
Well,
So there was questions. I mean, he did have some like Kuznetsov
Like he had
and
Backstrom.
But
Backstrom
hold
and
on.
all those
But-
guys, but
my point is, he changed his game.
For
he
sure.
suddenly finished his
well, he had
checks.
60 goals and a
He's-
minus 50, right?
He changed his
Yeah.
game, and I think it was Brett Hull who said, "I went from a scorer who can check to a checker who can score."
Right.
And I won't say Ovechkin went that far, but I do remember
He came back
a
to meet his
combination-
goalie.
Did Brett Hall ever check anybody?
when he was with the Red Wings winning Stanley Cups, he
Right.
scored less and checked more. Yeah,
Scotty
absolutely.
Bowman got him to come
Absolutely,
back.
he did. All
Yeah.
it took was Scotty freaking Bowman to get
Right.
him to do
They
it.
must have
And
blacked
in
those years out.
Ovechkin's case, it was a combination of Hunter. Remember Hunter benched him,
Yeah. They did not
Yeah.
get along. Like,
and Boudreau,
yeah.
Yep.
and these guys got him playing a 200-foot.
It was
game
Barry Trotz.
because it was Trotz. Sorry, not
Yeah.
Boudreau.
Yeah.
Well, Boudreau
Right.
was there, but then
He was
Trops
there, but
won
it
the
was
cup.
Trotz,
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
I think somebody described his head as a clenched fist with hair. And
Yikes. Wow. That's
well,
aggressive.
not me. That's not mine. I can't take credit for that one, but I don't mind stealing from others.
Did you guys hear that story where the owner Ted Leonisis they were playing bad, so he went to Boudreaux and he said, "Look, I want a curfew," and Boudreaux's like the last guy to be enforcing curfews. So he said, "I didn't want to piss off the owner," and he said, "We're on the road." And he said, I knew that Ovechkin was going to be out at the bars. So they had, I think it was like a 12 o'clock curfew. So he called Ovechkin, and he answers his phone, and he says, all I can hear is the band playing, women.
Russian dance music. Russian techno or something.
And he said, like, he's in a bar, he's giving her, and he said, Alex, Are you in? Yes, coach, I'm in. Okay, thank you. He said I called him. I couldn't verify where he was, but he said he was.
Was
in.
that his interview on Chicklets?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and you've said it all along. Regular season and playoffs are two different seasons.
Well, I just always think, and I mean this with the utmost respect with the Leafs. Like, yes, I hammer on them, but this whole regular season is not their issue. And they've always played
100%.
well. They've always compete. They're always in the top three. They're always a danger. Now, it comes into, now again, I will say and reiterate, I have heavily noticed the Berube brand that this team plays, and it seems to get deeper and deeper into the philosophy and strategy behind it. And, there's just certain circumstances where, they really have to understand they're getting less opportunities. There's been 7 games this year where the Leafs have had under 20 shots. When's the last time you've heard something like that?
Not too often.
Right? So it's a different brand. And, I didn't see the game today, and they lost, and it's 1-82, and I get that. But they, if they run into a player like Hellenbach, the goalie today, I don't know what the final shots were, but is that a factor? I don't know. Things really slow down and shut down in the playoffs.
Well, one thing I noticed Saturday night, I was over at my brother's doing our family Christmas, and of course I have to suffer through a Leafs-Islanders game while I'm there. But the Islanders scored 2 quick ones, and Berube called time and dressed them down and
Really?
just tore a strip off the lot of them. And I don't think the previous guy, I don't recall the previous guy doing that.
No.
I was
Keith
just gonna
never
say
did that.
And I remember my brother saying, I wish I was a painter because I'm probably going to get a contract job in the Leafs room at the start of the second period. Or something to that effect. Anyway, I don't much listen to my brother, but that particular occasion, I think he was probably right. I think Berube went in there, and I think Berube, and I'm a big fan of Berube, the hockey player. I could tell you he a former Flyer and among other teams.
Yep.
And, I know that he's the kind of guy where if he feels anybody, regardless of salary, requires
He
dressing
does
down in
not
the room,
care
he
who
will
you
not
are.
hesitate one moment. He
Yeah,
will do it.
and I love that about him. Right, I wasn't sure
That's
at
what
the
they needed.
beginning.
I believe that's what they
And
need.
then the more I thought about it over the summer after they signed him, I thought he could be exactly what they need, where he holds all these guys accountable. I didn't know what Matthews was going to be like as a captain. Like, he seems more like a Steve Yzerman, low key, quiet. Same as Tavares. I was hoping Matthews would stand up and be a little bit more vocal, but I don't know
well, I
if he
wonder
does that.
if Berube is kind of mentoring him in that direction.
It could be, and he's been hurt, so that's tough as well, right? You don't have a good pulse on the room when you're not in the trenches with the team. But the one thing that I'm hearing more and more recently, they need a third line center, and the name I keep hearing now that they're kicking around is acquiring the Flyers center, Scott Lawton, for the third line. They're talking, he's great in the dressing room.
He's a peach. Yeah, he's a beauty.
He comes highly recommended, having a line of Lawton, Domi, and McMahon. The problem is what are they going to give up? Like, they obviously don't want to give up too much in players, but they may come after a pick. Like, you're not going to give up Cowan, or a guy like that for a third line center. So it'll be interesting to see if they do take a run at a guy like that, what they're going to have to give up to get him. But stay tuned.
To reiterate Jeff's there, the shots on goal today were 27-25 for Winnipeg. But here's the glaring stat that glares out at me. Winnipeg had 22 block shots to Toronto's 6.
Really? Because Toronto's right up there in block
Yeah.
shots with Tanev and
22 block shots.
That's a lot.
That's a lot in
Yeah.
one game.
for sure.
That'll get you a win.
It's a frustrating day. Yeah.
It is. It
Well,
is.
because
You
even
can't
if
get
half
shots
of them get
right?
through, there's 11 more quality shots, right? So
Yeah. So that,
Yeah, one of the
that's
things you
pretty
go
well.
back to Brube on the bench there Saturday night in that timeout. One of the things that I continually saw him say when he was barking at everybody was just play the right way, right? So I think him holding all those high-end guys accountable just with that simple message, right? There's nothing special.
right.
We just need to do the little things and play the right way, and success is going to follow them. They're too good.
Yeah.
But when they get off their game and they're a little soft and they're second to pucks, and then bang, bang.
Yep.
2-0 hole. So, I think that's something that he has that swagger about him from everything that he's done in
Yeah.
the game as well, that I think it carries a lot of weight with
And I
that.
think Berube honestly is a huge compliment to this team. Like
Absolutely.
he's really woken them up and made them understand what they were doing and how they were doing business. Doesn't get it done.
Yeah.
And I mean that with all due respect, because they've seen the playoffs the last couple of years, but I think he's ingraining, and I still don't think that they've hit their full stride with this brand that Berube's brought to the table.
I can't-
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can't wait to see him tear the strip off the bench when they're down 2-0 in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be
that's gonna be
interesting. And it's going to be interesting. Like, they've got two of the top goalies in the league, in Stollarz and Wall. It'll be interesting to see if they can replicate that when the pressure and the media and they're under the microscope in the playoffs. Like, it's one thing to do it in the regular season, but man,
But-
oh man,
And just to reiterate that, and I agree with your Razor, but I will refer back to Holly's comment a couple weeks ago on one of our episodes. Sustainability and durability through an 82-game schedule, and I would never wish any injury on any NHL player or anybody for that matter. But you've got your first quest without Stollarz, and it was on a nothing play. So he's out till probably the end of January, which is unfortunate because, I want to see teams do well if they can.
right.
Wall's going to be carrying the load. You saw Murray there the other
Matt
night. He looked okay.
Murray.
Like he looked
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
He was tidy.
Yeah.
See, and Wall's got his own history there.
And Wall's got his own history. So
Right.
now you're coming into the territory again where, and again, this is if, hopefully not, if Wall tweaks something, then you got Murray and then you got Hillenby.
They're in trouble.
Yeah.
They're in trouble.
Right.
So and I'm not saying anything against what you're
I
saying,
get it.
because I think Stollarz and Wall are exactly what you're saying. They're
They're
very
in the
good.
league. Yeah.
But it is the 82 games that will
Right.
figure out if you can do it or not.
And I hope it doesn't come to it. Like, let's face it, Hildeby is going to be the backup of the four, right? You got Matt Murray, that's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. He's a Band-Aid, though. Like,
He's a porcelain doll.
So-
he really is.
But now you've got yourself into a problem in Toronto when Stollarz is back healthy. What do you do with Murray?
Send him down.
he
It's
knows
not even a
that.
conversation.
But if he plays well for the next month, he's not going to go down.
Nobody's done his job as a number 3.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
that is.
Like, I think
Send him down and
I think
release him.
you've got Berube and Treliving that have said to him, "Hey, man, like,
Yeah, 'cause somebody-
you've got a great resume, but this is where you are in our depth
Because
chart."
he has to clear waivers. So somebody needing a goaltender, and he's played well the last month, is going to say, hey, let's take a flyer on Matt Murray. Yep. Right? He
It
won't
could
make
happen.
And
He
I
won't
think
make it
I
down.
think that'd be a good opportunity for him. But I can't speak for the management in Toronto. But Stollarz and Wall are your guys.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
100. Yeah.
And talking about Friday night, I thought one of the best memes I saw Friday night was the trainer over the boards in Stollar's ear going, just don't get hurt and warm up.
Oh, dear.
And I thought that was funny. I'm going, that's a good one. That's a good one.
But yeah, it's always interesting, and
What
There's
What about before we get away from the Rangers? What about Matt Rempe's 8-game
Deserved.
suspension?
deserved.
Yeah. Well, it
It's
was
disappointing,
Yeah.
It's
For a young
hard
kid.
not to like that kid.
Yeah.
And he plays the right way as a tough guy. By and large, tough guys are renowned for every once in a while they go over.
He's had 22 games in the show, and this
The
is
line.
where he's at, unfortunately. You know,
Like
and
the fever that he brought to MSG and Broadway was
Yeah.
Last year was-
unparalleled,
yeah, it was-
right?
it was wild. But they were also winning at the time.
they
too,
were,
right? So
but the problem is that the guy has to realize that, you know, there's a line where you can play to it, but just don't cross it. Like, it wasn't like as if, you know, he took a couple of steps, like he elbowed him, like
he
it
drove,
was just
drove his head right through the
it
glass.
was it wasn't like vicious where he took 15 steps and boarded him, but it was ugly, and it doesn't help that he's 6'7".
well, we're
right?
going to have a conversation with the director of hockey operations. For those of you who don't know, there's been a acquiring of a man of that stature too in
Yeah,
their
just-
team.
just wait
So
till we
look
get to
forward
that
to get
talk.
into that.
Right.
But
yeah,
it's too bad. He's a likable kid.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part at the start to his career is he had to fight every tough guy in the league. Everybody was buying tickets because it was supposed to be this big,
Right.
crowd that's going to crowd around these guys and fight. It's too bad because I think, and like Holly said, he got to the NHL probably because of his talent. It's too bad that he can't just display that instead of having to go through all the growing pains of being that big and having to fight the tough guys. But this 8 games to me was just a really bad decision.
I don't think the league had a choice. It was his second suspension like you said, his 22-game career. He had a 4-game ban earlier for an elbow to Jersey defenseman Jonas Siegenthaler, and it was his 4th ejection. Like, what did he think was going to happen? Like,
Well, I don't think he was thinking at the
Well,
time.
no,
it happened
but-
so fast, but
it's like he's not going to get any breaks.
no.
His resume.
He's a repeat offender of a
repeat
repeat offender
offender.
now, right?
Yep.
So,
and
The new Rafi Torres.
but there was still
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot of backlash for the way the NHL's handled the player safety department,
That's
and their
just-
selective disciplining of players.
is it George Peros still?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Still
Strike
runs
3.
He still runs the thing. Last week, Darnell Nurse threw an elbow on somebody, and there was nothing done about it. And everybody goes, but 2 weeks ago that happened, and the guy that hit Nurse gets 7.
It was
6
Kachuk
games.
that he
Was
did
it?
that to.
Yeah, and he
Florida
just
and
about took his
Edmonton.
head off.
Yeah.
And it was clearly, it wasn't even an attempt to not try. He tried to hit him. He tried to take his head
Right.
off, but nothing was done about it.
Well, the thing that I say to that is, and I think that's a matter of opinion because the league has the right to review plays
Yeah.
after the game, and they still didn't address it. So
No.
maybe they thought it wasn't. So
Yep.
that's the
Right.
inconsistency I think you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
With different players.
But the thing you have to realize is there never will be.
No.
There never will be a 100% consistency with this kind of job.
Yeah.
I think we spoke last year about this job, and I did this job. I did the same job in the ICBA, and it didn't matter what decision I made. It's just being in that position. It's like being a first base umpire on a bang bang play. It doesn't matter whether you call safe or out. Somebody's mad at you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Every single time a close play happens.
Here's a
somebody gets
question
mad at you.
for you Flyer fans. Well, former
Flyer.
Holly. Holly, did you see Torts lose it when
Promised
the ref
myself I'd be nice to Clark.
with the ref out at center putting his arm up for a penalty and then quickly jerking it down? Like he put it down and
Oh, I missed
The other Torch snapped. He snapped. You could I'm a pretty good lip reader, and
Yeah.
he had quite a few questionable. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You put your arm up for a penalty. It's a penalty.
Was
you
he
know?
like the champ?
He looked at
I snap.
yeah, no
loser.
kidding. Yeah.
Out
He
cold.
did.
Is that cold enough for you?
We need to get John Boy Media doing some of these
Right.
rants because oh my gosh, he went off and there was a lot of swear words in that tantrum. And
Well, it's a
Love
thankless
it.
job, though,
Yeah.
right? Like,
For sure.
I mean, we've all been around the game long enough, and we would never all agree on anything, and
Yeah.
the game happens so fast, and nobody's happy. Like Brian said, you're never going to make anybody happy. You just got to make a decision and go with it. It's the inconsistency that frustrates you because you always think it's going against you. And I didn't see this play with Torts, but that would be quite frustrating if you thought you
Yeah.
were going on the power play and the decision was, no, I'm going to put my arm down now.
Right.
well,
You know,
So-
it's hard, but it is what it is.
Torch has
and,
had a couple of good rants. the last
So
few
I was sitting in Razor's office at the arena yesterday just for a quick chat before after my hockey game that I played. And speaking of refs, he'll remain nameless, but he sticks his head, "Hey, Razor, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, good. Got 4 games today. The wife's away, so I thought, go out and make some money, blah, blah, blah." And Razor just kind of said, "Oh, so how are things going?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I was coaching reffing a U15 last week, and just heard it from the parents the whole time, and then the coaches and all that." And he skated right up to the coach. He goes, "Do you want 45 penalties in this game, or do you want to let them try to play?" And the coach just kind of was like, "Well, you're right."
Right.
Like you can't have it. It's like Clarkie, and it's like you said, Holly. It's like you're not going to please everyone, and if you're going to go exactly by the book, that penalty box is going to be full. Your benches are going to be empty. There'll be some in the dressing room. You have to understand that there's an ebbs and flows to the game, and again, just reiterating, you're never going to make anyone happy.
we don't really want to fix it though.
No.
Like, you watch at the National Hockey League, right? Those guys, the abuse that they take as officials,
Right.
without giving them a penalty. And then from there down, every player and coach watches that and thinks it's the same way. And you go to the arena on a Saturday morning, and you watch some 12-year-old kid trying to do their best to referee a hockey game, and there's a 40-year-old dad that thinks he's winning the Stanley Cup today that's screaming about offsides at a 12-year-old child.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And they
But
wonder why
it
they
needs-
can't get kids.
Well, right, but it
you know.
needs to start, I know it's hard, but at the top level, they gotta turn it to just a penalty.
Yep.
Every time, right? And I know it would fill the penalty box, and it would be horrible to do that, but we can't continue and say it needs to stop. However, at the top levels, we let guys tee off on guys every time there's a penalty, right? It's just, it'll never change. If you think it will, come work a shift at 17 George.
And the thing about it is, too, following that up, Clarkie, is we've all been to live events. We've all seen the NHL, how uncontrollably fast it is, how talented these players are. These are bang-bang, split-second plays. We're talking the offsides. There was an offside when I was down in Detroit. Matthews went over, and I'm talking a millimeter, and they called it back. And Toronto, it was called against Toronto with Matthews. Toronto just couldn't believe it. And Detroit couldn't believe that they missed that. It was millimeters. The the linesman was on the line, and he missed it. Well, it's because these players are going 10 out of 10 at 100,000 RPM for most shifts, and we have no idea as general, the fans that we are of the game, how unbelievably, uncontrollably fast this game is at the highest level.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Like talking to Millsy when he was doing the lines in the NHL, and he just said, you'd have your good games where you're going, wow, I don't think I missed any calls tonight. He said, and then there'd be a couple of, like you're talking, right, where it's within millimeters. And he said, as soon as I would get back to the hotel every night, he said there's guys that review it, and they send a list of you did this really well, but you missed this, and this, and
Almost like audits.
yeah,
every game.
And he said it's every game, and I forget how many games he said they would do in a year, but he said it's somewhat stressful, right? Because you get rated and a point system.
You
and
have
then
a
when
responsibility as a
100%,
linesman, right?
Right, and he said they aren't going to take anything away from me during the regular season, but he said, folks, you want to, obviously you're human, you want to do a good job, but he said, if you make a couple of, questionable calls, you aren't going to be refereeing or lining in the playoffs. That's a
With
lot
all the
of
bonuses
money.
and stuff,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
it's an
so-
80-game tryout for them for the playoffs as well, right?
Right.
Same with umpires and fishers.
Yes. We get on field evaluations all the time, right, in baseball, and
So that's
We
why
have
you,
those-
you get the
we-
fall off.
we have those games. We have those games where you're just having a rough time behind the plate. You just can't pick up the zone properly, and your zone's all over the place. Well, once you've gone high, once you've gone low, you got to stay there, right? You can't try
What's
and squeeze it up
the
again.
you guys are? What's his name? Angel.
Angel
Hernandez.
Hernandez. That's a different story.
I will say this about that. Number one, people who bitch about those close plays have absolutely no hope of being unbiased like we do.
Yep.
You are always biased, and therefore you will always see it the way of your team.
Right. Fair.
Regardless.
So I had a
And
funny
a prime example,
Yeah,
a prime
go ahead.
example was a couple weeks ago, the St. Mary Stratford game.
Yep.
The Stratford people are all going, oh, what a great third period we played. And all the St. Mary's people are saying, Shane O'Brien, third star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were furious. And
I
I've
was
never
standing
seen,
with
in
them,
fairness,
Holly.
I've never seen Bradley that mad ever
Right.
at a referee. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You are biased.
We talked about
so-
what a class act he was after the game, and he
On
was
the
sitting there-
519 interview.
Yeah, I don't know the guy, but I was so impressed. He didn't sit up there and make excuses and blah blah blah. He was a consummate professional. He straight up said Stratford deserved to win, and I just thought, wow,
He's
that was
also
pretty
smart enough
classy.
to know he's not going to make any points, nor is he going to get any favors next time that guy referees his hockey club, nor is it really that important. To
But
them.
it was just such an intense game,
Mm-hmm.
and they let it slip away. And for him to get up there and be composed and say those words, I thought, this guy, I like him. I like him, and I'm a Stratford fan. But
And you could feel it, right? When that bouncy
100.
goal went in and made it 2-1, you could see Stratford turn a light on.
Yeah,
And St. Mary's didn't
Well,
respond.
and
I thought Stratford was full measure for the
And
2
Holly,
points.
in like with the utmost respect for both teams, I was like looking at Razor going, Stratford hasn't even showed up yet. We're halfway, 3/4 of the way through the second period.
we'll talk about that after.
But you know, it's just honest, and
Yeah.
I that's just my observation. It's nothing Clark can, you know, come at me for. It's just
Just
an
as a
observation.
final thought, though, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what sport you're officiating.
Yeah,
Those, as a rule, come out in the wash.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this call's going against you, the next one is just as likely to go your way. And it's very, very rare when a game you could, go back and say, man, we didn't get a damn call all night long. Those are really rare. And not all of those are accurate. Sometimes you're just frustrated at the way your team played. And you think, well, if we'd have got a call, might have tied that up on a power play or something like that. But
I think those are honest observations, though,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
for
like
sure.
that's okay to say.
This past summer, I had a coach that was not happy all game, and he come out, and I said to him, I'm only going to make 50% of the people happy on every call, so it doesn't matter what you think. And he just turned around, he walked away, and after the game goes, yeah, I never thought of it that way. And I said, well, it's true. You can only please half the people on every call.
so you don't try.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, don't even
Don't try
bother.
to please anybody.
Just call
Yeah.
your game, and
Yep.
Lord willing, you get through it without people chasing you in the parking lot.
right.
All right.
21 outs.
Yeah.
21 outs, folks.
Yeah.
All right, guys. First chapter, well done. And again, we thank Holly and Clarky for being with us this evening. We're going to get to a few of our very special sponsorships. Go ahead.
SBS Metals, metal fabrication with professional craftsmanship. Stratford's preferred custom commercial and residential metal fabricator. SBS Metals.
And the great people in the Myers family from Joe's Diner wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. They are closed for a couple of days. They are reopening in the new year. They refer you to their social media for their Christmas/holiday hours. They are the official breakfast and lunch dinner diner of the Armchair Chirpers, home of the world famous Perth County Breakfast number 4. Again, locally owned and operated by the Myers family, 2 locations in Stratford and St. Mary's.
Domino's Pizza, official pizza of the Armchair Chirpers. Get a free large item pizza if you go to our YouTube page and subscribe. Take a screenshot and come to either the Urban Barber or Reboot Repair for your coupon. 2 locations at 406 Ontario and 536 Huron Street.
We'll squeak in one more here before the break. Janet Lange, broker in the Home and Company Real Estate Office in Stratford, serving Stratford and surrounding area for over 20 years. She has coined the phrase putting the real in real estate, the official realtor/broker of the Armchair Chirpers, and wishes you warmest season greetings for the holidays.
All right, we'll take a break, and we'll be back quickly.
Wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I come tides for you. Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. You've got me beat, you've got me broken, right down to my soul.
All right, and we're back, folks.
We just wanted to continue on with our very generous sponsors, the Urban Barber, 155 Erie Street, full-service barber shop. We wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holiday Season to you and yours. We'll see you in 2025. We are closed until January 4th, taking a wee break with our friends and family, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Brighter Vision, Counseling, Psychology, and Wellness, providing compassionate and effective counseling services to individuals and families in need. They provide a safe and supportive environment where everyone can heal and grow. Brighter Vision, Counseling, Psychology, and Wellness.
And Les, just before we went on tonight, did you want to share a story?
Yeah, so we've been doing this for a long time, and we always bring up, it's okay not to be okay. Just start the conversation. So I had an email from a lady I do not know. I don't know how she got my email, but that's not the point. She emailed me and she said, my husband found your podcast. And I said, yeah, that's great. Awesome. She goes, he asked for help. And I said, that's fabulous. She goes, I didn't know he was suffering. So I emailed her back a few times and she said, yeah, she goes, he just came to me and he said, I've been listening to this podcast and they keep bringing up this thing. It's okay not to be okay.
Right.
And he asked for help. So, there's another person we've just helped by highlighting brighter visions, right?
Exactly.
Spreading information.
Well, and Clarky, I shared, I don't know if you heard our podcast there the last week when we were talking about the Battle of Highway 7, and I was talking to a guy when I was down at the Almond, and he said the same thing. And he said he was thanking me that we bring it up, and he doesn't know Sherry and her partner, but Kelly, and he just said, thank you for, starting the conversation. And he told me why he's struggling. He ended up witnessing a car accident and there was, 2 people killed. And he said, I thought I could handle it, but my wife told me that I should go and talk to somebody. And he goes, I think I'm going to do it. And it's just nice to hear, people that are being vulnerable that don't think they need to have all the answers, right? Like if you had cancer, you'd go and get treatment for it, and it's just good lesson. We got to tip our cap to you, like for bringing the awareness to it.
Yeah,
buddy.
I was talking to said individual you were talking to, and he's doing a lot better. So,
Good. Oh,
it's
that's
good to
great.
hear.
That's great. I mean, it's incredible stuff that you're doing here at the podcast. I think you said maybe number 45 tonight.
Yep.
So, kudos to all of you for everything that you do here, and just hearing those stories and people hearing you guys talk about it, and just giving them a little bit of comfort,
Right.
to know, what, I can talk to somebody, and the pendulum has swung quite a bit in the last few years, right, where it's a lot more out in the open now for people to talk to somebody. And every time there's a tragedy, everyone around always wishes they had an opportunity to help, but they didn't know.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So if there's anybody out there that all the people that are around you, they want to help you, they just need to know. So speak up if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so critically important to get past the stigma that it's somewhat less than manly to ask for help.
Yep.
For problems between your ears. I mean, it's just, don't wait for a tragedy.
Right.
If you're feeling it, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Well
Pain
said,
is
Holly.
pain, no matter
Yeah.
what part of your body is affected. And, you know, one of the keys to getting through life as a man, everybody is applicable here, but men just seem to have a stigma that says I can't say anything out loud to my buddies or to my guys at work just because they'll think less of me. That's just not the case.
Yeah.
Even if it is the case, they're the kind of people that don't matter.
I think we should get maybe Bell as a sponsor because they were the ones that kind of started it all with Bell Let's
Yeah.
Talk, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
something to
I
think
mean,
about.
there's, it's just all, and when I say good news, I mean that the message is getting out, that these people are having a good look at themselves and going, you know what, like, yeah, I could probably use an ear or an appointment to speak to a professional. So kudos to the people who we're referring to, if we know you or not, and we still speak out for the ones who are listening. And listen, if you've got some challenges in your life, reach out to a friend, reach out to someone, and we'll continue to get the message out there. Brighter
Sherry-
Vision.
Sherry and Kelly at Brighter
Yeah.
Vision.
The journey begins with a single step.
All right.
Yeah.
And for our last one, but not least, our friends at Bentley's Barn Inn, official barn restaurant of the Armchair, Chirpers, 20 beers on draft, daily food specials, fabulous place to spend the night in their lofts or executive suites that have been completely restored and renovated. They've done a wonderful job. Locally owned and operated by the Bentley family, and basically on any given night, you could go down there and see one of the members of that family.
And they're a
Right.
different kind of mental health professional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wonderful family, wonderful business,
Top
and
notch.
thank you guys for your support.
All right, so we're going to
Yeah.
get into the Junior B talk here, and it's a good thing Jason's here because I get a text message Tuesday morning early, and we made a trade. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, we traded Wiseman to Sarnia. And I'm like, so I'm doing the math in my head. Well, that takes us down to 23, blah, blah, blah. Who did you sign? And he texts me back. He says, Andrew Wojnicki. I'm like, and where did he come from? He goes, Port Colborne. I'm sitting there going, okay. I'm going to have to do some looking. And I look, and then he texts back right away. He goes, 6'8", 233. I'm like, wow. So I
This
do
was you,
some.
Clarky, texting me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tuesday
17 or something?
17,
years old.
Yeah.
So,
So
Les,
just a
and just
kid.
an honest question. I'm wondering if we can honestly start referring to you as the Warrior Insider.
Insider, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that confidence. Yeah, you can. Anytime you want. man.
But it
That's
helps me.
awesome.
It helps me when I get the news that early, so when I can do my prep for Friday night, I'm not blindsided by all of a sudden, oh, Wiseman's gone and we brought this kid in. I have no clue who he is. But doing my research, yeah, he is a big lad. So Wednesday night I had to go down. We bought the kids hockey skates for Christmas. So I had to go down and Josh was going to sharpen them. And I was talking to Josh and he says, yeah, he uses a 115 flex. I'm going, oh, he goes, we should just go get him 2x4s from Home Hardware.
Right.
Because it's about the same flex. And he says, it's probably just as long. And Zach Schooley's sitting there because he's injured. And he goes, yeah, his stick's taller than me. And when I'm on skates. And I'm going, but you're not that tall, really. And he goes, it's taller than Wilson. I said, oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah, that's a
Do you want to take us through kind of how that happened, or just kind of what, like not
Sure.
maybe details, but how kind of that came to fruition to acquire this player?
Yeah, sure. Our assistant GM, Mark Nelson, knew of Andrew. He was at Erie Otter Camp this past season, and Mark has obviously seen him in all his travels and scouting when he played U16, and he was available. They were moving some parts around too. And for us, really, if you've watched the hockey club, which everybody here has, and probably a bunch of people who are listening, we have a lot of skilled, smaller D men, and Aiden Wilson kind of carries all the weight back there for any type of physical type of play. And, to create a little bit more room for our guys on the back end there, we thought adding some size here as we get towards the deadline would be a good thing for us. And Andrew definitely fits that bill.
Right.
Coming in at the size that he is, and he's not afraid of the physical stuff. So we were able to make the move. And for Jacob, I have nothing but fantastic things to say about that young man. An incredible teammate. He's wearing an A for us this year, right? He came in. He was a captain of his high school hockey team in Michigan, and we couldn't have asked anything else from him. Just his playing time was getting a little bit less and less, and you could see he was getting frustrated too. And we had some really good chats, and he wondered if there was an opportunity to play closer to home. He would like that.
He's a Michigan native.
He's a Michigan boy, yep, from Trenton, Michigan, just outside Detroit. So we were able to swing a deal with Sarnia for him, and all amicable on the.
That's good to hear.
So that is.
I was a big fan of him, and I know that there's business in hockey and all of it. So I'm just glad that it ended like that because nice kid.
Yeah, great kid, and wish him nothing but the best in Sarnia and his future. I know he's trying to play at the next level with some college hockey coming up here. He still has a year of junior hockey left, so wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, I was able to chat with him too, and he was very appreciative of everything. And I said, thank you for everything you've done for me, because anytime I needed somebody to come on the air, he'd come up and talk. Right?
Yeah.
'Cause he was good at talking, and he loved doing it. And he said, I can't wait. I'll come and see you when we get back to town, and because we got to play Sarnia 3 times coming up. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we still have him a couple
Wow.
of times. Yeah.
So Friday night's game, Jason, I've been, doing the broadcast. I see all the games. We just don't start on time.
It's a problem.
It's an issue. It was another game where we played the last half of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And get ourselves in a hole where we got to come back. We came back against LaSalle. And we beat LaSalle, which is a good thing. But the standings are so tight. Every game is so important. And then, we go into Waterloo yesterday and we threw up a stink bomb. And it was a tough game to call because both teams didn't play well, but Waterloo played well enough.
Do you think there was any element of the holiday season upon these players? Just a question.
It could be. And plus you're at game 30, so that's a lot of hockey in 3 months.
Yeah, for
these
sure.
guys.
The starts it's always frustrating as a coach or as a manager or even a fan, right? When you go to watch your team and you're just not ready to play, and in such big games, because really every game that we play in our division is like a playoff game. Like we have to be ready to go each and every night because, again, slow start yesterday, we get down a couple goals and we never get it back. Right?
Just can't dig ourselves out of that hole.
And we can't play that game with St. Mary's and LaSalle, and I say those two because they're at the top of the standings, but everybody through the whole division, we start giving 2-0 leads, we're going to find ourselves in the wrong end of a lot of hockey games. So, it's got to be fixed in the room, and it starts with the players doing their routines, whatever they're doing to get themselves ready. Right now, it's just not working to be at the top of their game as soon as the puck drops. It could be a little bit of getting tired. I find every year around this time it gets a little stale, and everybody does come back refreshed in January because you're now looking towards, we got 20 games left. Then hopefully we're in the playoffs, right? And what can we do? And come January 10th, trade deadline's over, team cemented, right? So, and then we can just move forward with the group that we have in place.
I would.
At that time.
I never try to dilute any message that you would have or what Les is saying about starting on time, but isn't it interesting how many times you see it at the highest level as well?
Yeah.
And from the best teams.
Yeah.
Right? And so, again, I'm not trying to dilute any type of message or culture that you're trying to create in your hockey club, Clarkie, but it's like habitual culture that you try to instill that keeps consistent. The message keeps getting through. You keep feeling inspired. You keep feeling like you need to deliver early, especially with the high competition in your division. Like, I give you guys a lot of kudos for how competitive you've been in the first half, and even with like neighboring St. Mary's. The division is a snake pit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable, guys.
Like, it's 4 points separating the top 6 teams. You got St. Mary's at 43, LaSalle at 42, London and Chatham at 41, you guys at 40, and Listowel at 39. And surprisingly, with all of the shenanigans going on in London, they're the hottest team in the league the past 10 games at 8-2.
They've made some changes, some trades and that, and they were good. They were just getting into stuff they shouldn't have got into.
Well, and that's a new coach.
Yes.
Like, he may be an NHLer, but he's still a new coach.
Right.
And, we just talked about that in the first segment.
100%, Holly.
That the Leafs are getting used to their new coach, and they're starting to, figure it out. London's always good. They can always skate. They've always got a tough club. They've always got a good goaltender. That Swedish kid is a really, really good goaltender. And, I've seen them play 2 or 3 times. I watched them play Stratford. I watched them play St. Mary's, and they bring an edge to their game. And,
Yeah, and they're sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to say that London always figures it out, and they're always tough. One thing you learn watching some Western Conference stuff is that London's always there, whether they're the best team or not. They're always there. And what's interesting that we talked on Friday night about possible playoff matches. It's on Friday night, as of the second period that you brought me on. Stratford was playing Listowel in the first round, and I can remember myself saying neither team wants that. Because that's a tough, that's the biggest change. To me, that's the biggest change in realignment, is that Midwest teams don't have that dog to walk in the first round that they have had by finishing at the top. So important to finish at the top of the standings in the Midwest.
Right.
So you could get a Brantford. I mean, Stratford had Brantford, and Brantford gave them you can't really say
Gave 'em a run.
Brantford
Yep.
gave them a hard time. It was the goalie that gave them a hard time. I mean, they outplayed them pretty
Yeah.
good. And they needed overtime at least once, maybe twice, wasn't it?
Once at least, because I got the
Yep,
big
yep,
goal
yep.
Cole moniker.
Right.
You got your call in there in overtime, and so it's not the case this year. And so 3 days later, now Stratford gets Chatham, which might even be a worse matchup because it's 2 hours down the freaking road to play, and these guys are huge. They really are big.
Yeah,
Chatham,
I don't
yeah.
really want to go back to Chatham this year.
No.
That's a
Especially
team-
with their goalie.
That's my dark horse team. Watch out for Chatham.
Yes, I agree.
Do you know what though, too, Holly, in saying that with about Chatham and the dark horse, man, I don't even know if they're going to be a dark horse. I think they're going to be.
Well, you're right. They might end up second in the league.
Yeah,
The-
and I know that Clarkey has to kind of stay calculated here with some of our comments, but I look at Chatham and I think from the start of the year when they were here and Stratford beat them to where all of a sudden they're winning games like 11-2 and all this type of stuff against some pretty good teams.
And you know what's scary about Chatham? Yeah, they were winning 11-2 early, but now they're winning 2-1 and 3-2.
Yeah, so they know how to lock it.
And
play
watch out,
tight.
man.
Yeah,
they're
there's-
like the mirror image of Listowel, frankly.
There's
That's what they
teams that were at the bottom this first 30 games that they're not going to try. They're not going to stay there. They're going to make some moves. Everybody's counting Waterloo out, but I'm not.
Well, and Elmira's got the top 2
Elmira's
scorers in to go.
Yeah, but
Elmira,
Elmira's,
Listowel,
That
Waterloo. I'm
Martin
telling
kid
you,
for
those
Elmira is
guys,
just lighting.
those
What's he
teams.
got? 55 points already. He's just lighting.
Clarky,
it up.
And how's that for the league?
But Clarky, we talk a
fantastic.
lot, and,
Right.
and you can say to the extent that you would like, but I don't think we're too far off with what we're observing with the competition of the different town centers that we're referring to. Like, you guys have to have a pulse on what's going on in the league, and you've got to see those examples, and you make sure you pay attention to stuff like that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's insane when you think about it. Like, you're talking about Chatham, you're saying we wouldn't want them in the playoffs, and there's no good matchup that's going
Right.
to happen in the
Fair.
West.
Yeah,
right?
in fairness, I'm not
but,
singling you guys out.
yeah,
I,
no.
if I own a junior B hockey club,
Yeah.
Chatham is one of the last teams I want to play
Yeah,
first.
and but you know what? We went down there the back-to-back weeks, Sunday nights, and lost 1-2-1 and won 1-2-1, and I tell you, their fans are much like ours. The rink is
they're
much like
vicious.
ours.
The
They're
rink
vicious.
is similar.
The,
is it
the rink
not?
is similar,
Yeah.
and I think a series against them with two
Yeah.
decently filled arenas and fans hating each other,
Right.
and teams hating each other, right?
Yeah.
I think it would be a great series.
You
but
have to
in
bring
saying that-
Reuter into.
Oh, it's-
bring Reuter
Well,
in.
he's
gonna
not.
say
He's
it.
not allowed in
try-
there after
to-
that big goal. He's not allowed in
Yeah.
Opening
Chatham's
face-off
arena.
game.
saw
He
his
one.
wasn't
picture in the
kicked
lobby.
out. He was asked to leave. There's a big difference.
We brought a giant screen to show everybody the goal he scored.
I can imagine. I can imagine what that place would be like in the playoffs. Like the first game down there, we had kids with blowhorns right in front of our table trying to do the broadcast.
Yeah.
So the second game, we sat the players not playing from Stratford in front of our table so we wouldn't have kids with air horns.
Well, we I don't want to start a gossip or anything, but hey, if they're gonna bring those, then maybe Clarkie, we got to bring back the milk jugs with the ball
shakers.
bearings.
Ball
in it.
bearings and the shakers, and that wonder why the bottoms will blow out with ball bearings. in it.
All I
just
could-
take a.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, again, talking about
Yep.
playoffs, and again, I don't want to really talk about playoffs because
Yep.
we're not even there
That's
yet.
right.
But any of the other Midwest teams that came with us, we think of any of them in a draw, Elmira, Listowel, Waterloo, those are all tough.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at the
Absolutely.
West, and now you go, okay, let's pick St. Mary's, London, Chatham, LaSalle.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and Strathroy just added skirt.
Strathroy
from
is-
They're tough
Kamoka,
too,
right?
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
Strathroy's and
Strathroy's
another real tough rink to play
Oh,
in.
brutal rink.
Right?
It's
And,
I hate. It's one of those
Yeah,
rinks.
it's the league really got it right, I think, with the West. I don't know. Obviously, I pay attention to the East, but I'm not living it daily. But the West, there can't be anybody that's unhappy with it other than
Absolutely.
maybe some of the travel from, like Listowel probably doesn't like that drive to LaSalle.
I went to
Right.
a game in Waterloo, and the Waterloo fans aren't happy with it. That's the fans,
Yeah.
not the hockey club. The fans are not happy with the fact.
Well, because Waterloo always thought they were the center of the universe,
Kitchener-Waterloo
right?
is the center of the universe, and look at their travel when you're in the Midwest. I got to go 5 minutes to Kitchener. I got to go 12 minutes
Right.
to Cambridge.
Yeah.
I got to go 18 minutes up to Elmira.
Right.
20 minutes to Guelph when they were in the league.
15 minutes if
and-
it's busy to air.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right. So
Clarkie, we got a bit of a pulse on the season now, and you've been on a few times, and you were referencing the the new structure and the opportunities that lie ahead with your hockey club and of course our neighboring Lincolns. I don't think that there's anything to be left unsaid about the arenas, the visitors, the traveling fans, the energy, the vibes, the great time that these three games have provided. Congrats! I mean, it was so fun to be at that alumni night with St. Mary's in town, and I was saying to these guys here, and they already knew what I was going to say, but the traveling fans. I mean, I was sitting with some Lincoln fans, and it was just so much fun to be a part of the camaraderie. There's a lot of respect there between the two teams, and I think that that's one thing that you cannot put a better exclamation point on is the respect that St. Mary's and Stratford have for each other, all the way down to the fans.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's it doesn't get any better, right? In those games, and we do only have one left in the regular season.
Right. And when is that
but
again?
It's in
January
January
25th?
18th.
January
January
18th,
Saturday
right?
night.
Joe's-
Circle that. Is it
Joe's
Friday night?
Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Joe's
yeah.
chicken dinner night.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we play Listowel on the Friday night.
I'd have to.
I
look.
think
Just
so.
to be
I think
clear,
so. I think
though,
we play
you
Listowel
said
on Friday
Joe's
night.
Joe's Diner
Joe's
I'm not
Diner,
sure.
chicken dinner night.
in St. Mary's is
in St.
providing
Mary's
a
at the
chicken
Pyramid.
dinner,
Yep.
$35.
And then you
Fill
can
your
walk,
boots.
walk across the hallway and watch the hockey game.
Yeah.
So you
Looking
can't
forward
beat
to that.
Jason, we always talked about we had to get through each team one time to know where we're at.
Yep.
Where do you think we're at?
I think we're probably right where we're better than what I thought we were going to be.
Yeah.
And that's not a shot at our
Nope.
group. It's just a shot at turning over 14 players again, right? You just really don't know what we have. And, I've said it on this podcast before is we think we do a good job at recruiting guys, but we don't really know until we get through. And, we banked a lot of points early, and which is proving very, very crucial to us. But for us to be sitting 3 points behind a team that went to the Sutherland Cup finals and returned a large group of players, we can't be anything but happy with that, with our group. So, and going back to what we're talking about with the starts, another thing about our group is, the kids, they're kids, right? They're young. We
right.
want,
Teenagers.
we
Right.
want them to be,
Right.
we want them to be pros, and we want them to do things the right way each and every time they come on the ice. But we have to take a step back and understand they're young kids developing in the game of junior hockey. So mistakes are made. You're bad one night, or you're not ready to go. That happens. So, we have 50 games to figure it out, right? Hopefully you secure one of the 8 spots. And then really, I think it's a free-for-all in the West here once the playoffs get going.
Yeah.
So I'm
Clark,
real happy with the group.
And I think hearing you talk like that, and I know that that's the culture that you and your management team and coaching team have created. It's good to hear you say that and to really understand that these are amateur athletes and hockey players. Teenagers have good days, bad days, ups and downs, and the fact that you guys, of course you want, intense engagement in games and being ready and all that stuff, but to truly understand what the brand of hockey is that you guys are running is, I think that's why you find a lot of success. There's patience, there's understanding, but, there's also the discipline. There's also, being disciplined, as a player or whatever, if things go sideways a little bit, it's such a balance that you guys have to do for these players. And, kudos to you guys. You're in it. You spend a lot of time with the team at the rink, away from the rink.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a full-time job basically on top of your full-time job and your family. So it
truly is.
yeah.
Yeah, but obviously we love doing it. Otherwise we wouldn't do it.
100%.
Right.
And to be successful at it is just a feather in the cap if, you're doing things the right way.
But Holly, you were saying, sorry, and just
go
one
ahead.
more quick thing. And Holly, you were saying too, because we were talking about you, we were talking about Willie and, Parsi and all those guys. And it is completely because of, I think, the Stratford like you were born and raised in Stratford, understanding the tradition, the culture, all that stuff too. So I think that's really why it's coming full circle back to where, we're really appreciating, the teams that you guys build and the work that you guys do.
Yeah, well, thank you. I can't thank you enough for that, but it truly is the fabric of a young Stratford boy playing minor hockey here and going to games on a Friday night here, right? Like, I remember all those guys that sent alumni videos in. I remember going and watching them play.
Yep.
Right.
And if you watch the 519 interviews and stuff, Willie talked about, the first team he cheered for was the Cultons at that time, right? The local junior team. So, it's a huge thing in all of our minds. And, when Nick and I took on these roles with the hockey club, that was one thing that we really talked about is, if we can ever get this place to a spot where the arena is full again, that's something that we really want to do for not only ourselves and our community, but the hockey club, because there is so much history and tradition here. And, luckily enough, we inherited a really good group of players, right? And we were able to create that with that Cherry Cup against Waterloo and then the Sutherland Cup finals against Leamington. So, hopefully at some point we can get back there again and do the same thing.
Just your ability, though, like, I've mentioned it many a times on the podcast. Like, I look down your list, and after Lewis, there's like 5 or 6 rookies that are next in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is all attributed to you guys, your staff, your scouts.
Eye for talent, like you say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, being able to evaluate that talent, people think, oh, wow, this kid's an open. No, it is a lot of work. You guys are scouting Michigan. You're scouting, Port Colborne. Like, you've got eyes and ears, and that's fine where you get a name, but you've got to be able to evaluate that kid. Can he come in and do what we need him to do? We don't need all run and gun guys. We need, some sandpaper. We need this. And you guys have done a fantastic job, like, sincerely. Like, because we talked there last week about how yourself and Nick and all the Nux and all the staff were all young boys, like Tim Taylor and everybody else on the podcast has said. We were Toronto Maple Leaf fans, but our goal was to play on the Culletons.
We were NHL fans.
Exactly. NHL.
What's the matter with you?
I tell you what, there's one thing that hasn't been
Right.
mentioned thus far is the word that comes to mind when I think of that organization is continuity. And that is so important. You could bring in all the talented young men that you want, but if everybody is running willy-nilly in the organization, it's top-driven. The message starts at the top and makes it all the way down. There's consistency year over year on how we develop our kids, how we scout. Like, they have a philosophy. And that continuity, you made one change that I know of anyway, at assistant coach. But other than that, over the last few years, you look at Willie, the coach, and Parzy's been there, and you've been there, and Schlitty's been there, and so that organization has continuity.
Yeah.
This is the kind of player that we like. This is what we're going to do with that player when he shows up. This is how we're going to take care of this young man and allow him to grow within our organization. And one thing that you really have to be impressed with the Stratford organization, that continuity. Well, continuity breeds success.
Absolutely.
And I think it doesn't matter how much talent you have, that continuity allows these kids to grow within the system and makes them a better hockey club.
But the job that you guys do, in my observation, and I'm sure the panel would agree, it's so much harder these days than it was 20 years ago because you have other avenues these players can take. You have players changing their minds. You could have somebody that you invite to camp that you have every aspiration to sign them. They show up. Maybe they aren't exactly what you thought they were. I mean, there's all these avenues that these young players come down. Things change. Plans change. All this stuff. Like, it just continues to throw these cinder blocks on the pressure of trying to figure out the puzzle to assemble a team. Like, it's unbelievable how you guys do it. Like, it just is.
Yeah, well,
I'm not trying to not trying to blow smoke. It's just I watch your team and the amount of first-time junior B players, and they may not be 16, but they're first-time junior B players. Well, that's a jump from AAA to junior B. Like,
yeah, it's a huge
and
jump.
It's something to see, and I just, just to continue, I guess the appreciation of the local hockey fan for the junior B club.
So-
That's just what I'll say.
So with adding Mr. Wojnicki, that brought us up to 16 rookies this year. And I just thought of this now. I talked to Andrew after his first game Friday night, and his first words were, "I was shitting my pants." Because he goes, "I'm used to playing in front of 150 fans."
Port
If
Colborne?
that, yeah. He said, if that. And he said,
Yeah.
for the first 2 shifts out there, I didn't feel my skates, didn't feel my stick. He said, I was
Was that in Stratford?
Yeah, Friday night.
How many would you say was there? Like ish.
9:33.
Is that right, eh?
But that's a huge jump for
Considering
a kid,
there's almost zero draw with the visiting team,
Well, and it's all the other elements, the
Right.
surrounding seating, the press
Yeah.
box up top. Like, it's I don't even know what to say how it would feel for a young kid coming from Port Colborne to go play in that arena.
Well, I
Like,
think he
no
antiquated
kidding.
it pretty well. He said for the first couple of shifts, he was shitting his pants.
Like, could you imagine though going, from, no disrespect to them, but going from a smaller junior B, like maybe an Elmira
From
or
Port
something,
Colborne, yeah.
or Port Colborne, and then going to the John Labatt Center,
Yeah.
right? And like that would be, where you're just awestruck looking around for the first few minutes, right? You got
You hear the strong reaction from the crowd on almost goal or a pass or a hit.
And I talked to his dad, and his dad is probably 6'9", 6'10", maybe. And I talked to his dad. He said when they first came and he walked in and looked at the arena, he said to him, he said, "Now this is a hockey arena,"
right.
because he had never been in that arena. He'd never played here.
Yeah.
And he said it was just an experience. And he looked a little better yesterday. It's just going to take him a while to get his feet underneath him. Clarkie did say to me, he said, well, we were talking about size and everything. Clarkie said, just wait till you shake his hand. I shook his hand, and I looked at him, and I said, I think I got to go get x-rays now, because
Yeah, it's like
it wasn't
grabbing a bag
shaking.
of chips.
That's how you can tell the really good athletes.
Yeah.
They
Oh.
have huge hands.
He's going to be such a huge asset come playoff time.
Well, and you
like he
mentioned
just
him,
really is.
On air when you had me on, and I made the reference to Binder,
Yep.
who looked a little nondescript in his first game or two. Now he looks.
I love how
looks
he's
quite good.
playing.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
takes
He had a
some-
couple more assists there
integration
Friday
time.
night.
Yeah.
I love the kid. Played great against St. Mary's. He's,
That line,
him, Lewis.
Is that the Saskatchewan boy?
Alberta, yeah.
Alberta.
That's
yeah.
the line. I think it was Lewis and Binder and Slattery
Yeah.
in the third period, and they lit it up. Man.
Exactly.
They took over that game. That's as good as I've seen Slattery play.
And you got to remember, like Friday night, we didn't have Nagy. Like
You didn't have
he was
Schooley.
up in Collingwood getting his ring for last year, well deserved.
Yep.
No Nagy, no Schooley, no Wilson,
Yeah.
and I'm forgetting somebody else
Carter
too.
Petrie.
Carter Petrie. And I find with this
Petrie,
team,
right.
we have to manufacture goals. And you take a Hunter Nagy out of your lineup, and there's a guy that can manufacture some points.
right.
You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, all those guys you mentioned, right, all play big roles for us. And, but we got to do it by committee,
That's right,
right?
yep.
It's a next man up mentality when that happens. And, I thought they did a great job of sticking with it and catching a bit of fire there late in the game and getting the job done against a really good hockey club. And we were able to get 5 points out of the 4 games against LaSalle.
Yeah, that's right.
Well done.
Yeah.
Losing that one.
The other guy I want to give mention to, Clarkey, is McDougall. He stopped 25 of 26 there on Friday night, 962 save percentage. And I think I mentioned to it before when you guys played in St. Mary's the first time. I think it was after the second goal. And the Stratford guys were all going to go to him and pat him on the pads like they normally do. We'll get it back. And I love what he did because he put his hand out and he's like, don't come near me. I don't need, sympathy pats. I loved it.
Yeah.
He took total responsibility for the goal that went in. And he redeemed himself, and he played a solid game. You guys ended up losing the game, but it wasn't because of him. And I just loved how he's a fighter.
Yeah.
And I just thought, man, that is awesome. Like, he doesn't need guys giving him that little tap. And I loved his character. That showed a lot of his character.
Yeah, he's a real competitor, right?
Yeah.
And he's funny because he's definitely two people. He's the happiest guy.
Yep.
He's always got a smile on his face. He would do anything for anybody. Grabs extra stuff when they're loading or unloading the bus, or you ask him to do anything, he does it.
Love it.
But when the game is on, he gets zoned in there
Yep.
and he digs in. And
Yep.
That's
he was
awesome.
fantastic this past Friday night against LaSalle as well.
Awesome.
Never underestimate the importance of a 20-year-old goalie at this level.
And
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And the thing about 20-year-old goalies is they usually have short memories.
Yeah.
So they forget about
Well,
that goal.
the maturity
and
there,
that
the
game.
resiliency.
And Les, you mentioned
Unreal.
it too when we were talking, just kind of recapping the St. Mary's game and how we were talking about a bit of a slow start for the home team that night, and we were talking about people that made a difference. We mentioned Schooley, but you really mentioned McDougall about a couple of saves that he made that were absolutely crucial
Yeah.
for them to come out of that game.
He makes some big saves and keeps this team in it. Chase Furlong does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Just that he's just a younger kid. But that first game in St. Mary's, I talked to Carter after the game, and he said that's the first time he's been that nervous for a game because he's a St. Mary's kid.
Right.
Playing in St. Mary's.
That would be huge.
Playing against St. Mary's as a St. Mary's kid, right?
And the barn was absolutely
And playing
packed
his
to the
brother for the
rafters.
first time too. He said he was
I
more
just-
nervous about playing his brother, and
With all
Right.
the hype around the anniversary game here two
Yep.
weeks ago, I think that was really good for him to get that win.
it was.
Right,
For sure.
Just really
to
will
come back.
I think it was
cement
good
him as well.
Yeah, it was great for the
After
whole
the
team to
second
get
goal,
that.
it
Oh,
was
for sure.
Katie barred the
Yeah.
door, and that was all they got.
Yeah.
Well, he made that one save. I forget who it was on, and then Binder went down and got the tying goal. And
Well,
like,
he made that save, and then on his brother.
oh, is it his
And
brother?
that's when him and
Okay,
his brother
yeah,
got
yeah.
tangled
Clarky,
up.
we were talking about
yeah,
that
they
busy
got
shift
into it with each other.
that happened there.
I remember
The
thinking,
the
"You're not
McDougall
supposed to
brothers
fight."
are going
Yeah.
at it, and you're looking at that, and then you look down there, and Binder puts it in top shelf.
Yeah.
And it was just, we listened to your broadcast about
Yeah.
that play, but you weren't saying, you didn't know where to look either.
Yeah,
It
some
was
people were
just
focused on.
I was watching the
stuff
brothers
going
go
on.
at it.
Yeah.
Going
And
nuts.
I talked to them both after the game, and Carter said, "Yeah, Chase asked them to go." And I said, well, good thing you didn't, because that would have negated the goal,
Right.
Yeah.
But then he said he looks up and his mom's sitting right there with her arms folded. It's like, yeah, we
We
better
all
not.
heard Mom laid the rules down, right?
Yeah.
Well, in a perfect world, we would love to see Stratford St. Mary's in a 7-game for the league championship. That would just be ultimate. Obviously,
That's like
we're biased.
overstimulation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably too much. To
But
ask.
you hit the nail on the head. Hey, let's not put the cart before the horse. We got to get to the playoffs, and then anything can happen. We got to
Now-
stay healthy. You got to get hot goaltending. Like, there's a lot of things that got to happen.
Yeah.
But you guys are you realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you guys, there's very few surprises. You've seen, the teams in the East. You guys know who you are in the West, and I just think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. And I was looking on my phone. The Irish don't play on the 18th, so I think we got a roadie down to Highway 7. To St.
17
Mary's.
minutes to St. Mary's.
Right?
Yeah, I've already. That's my youngest kid's birthday, I said, "You're 29. You've had a few. I'll take you out for lunch early, but then I'm going for Joe's chicken dinner."
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Yeah, we got to do that too. We got to go and support Blaine, one of our
Yeah.
sponsors, for the chicken dinner
sure.
before.
I also wanted to mention Friday night's game. I just thought of this now. Carter McDougall had a shutout. That first goal never even crossed the line.
Oh, really? Okay.
Remember
Every
that conversation we had about bias in
Yeah.
the first
I,
segment.
but I'm going to say everybody I've talked to, I didn't have the greatest angle up where I am. I talked to Brandon Bax from 519. He said he panned away because he thought it was in.
Right.
But everybody else I've talked to that was either behind it or above it. And Cole Lewis said that puck didn't cry. I was standing right there. But, you know.
in
So-
fairness to the
Again, it
referee,
is-
he was in
right there.
position.
Yeah.
He
So
was right
really
on the doorstep.
quickly, Les, at that Lincoln game, I was standing with Chester and Rhett and his friend Derek and all the all the ones I was standing with. We're watching the game and it was getting intense and stuff like that. And Chester gives me an elbow right in the ribs. He goes, "Is Les gonna fall out of the press box?" Like, you were completely leaned
sometimes,
over.
Yeah, sometimes I
Oh my
have to lean
gosh.
through the box to see the corners, right?
There have been a couple times that I've worked with him. And my arm comes up like.
It was just
really
kinda
no-
comical,
there's no-
Cole.
Last year in the playoffs when we were playing Brantford, Cole Lewis scores that big goal at home, and I give him the big goal Cole moniker.
Yeah.
The general said he had to grab onto my foot. He thought I was going out.
Yeah,
I
but
said
that
it
occurred to
up
me. I
there.
went, I could grab him all I want, but I think
Brian's
I think
just gonna push.
I
me.
don't. I think you're dead. Sorry.
But it was
But
just
it's
that second that
Yeah.
Chester noticed and we looked up and we just, it was just a friendly laugh because it was like literally you looked like you were going to fly out of the window.
Yeah,
but,
it's
Not only is it fun being up there
Yeah.
with him when we're calling the game, but I learned a different thing on Friday night when I was doing the PA job, and I am in the middle of an announcement,
Yeah.
and there was a big save, and I can't even remember exactly who made the save, but I'm right
was
in the middle
McDougall.
of
It was
talking, and all of a
McDougall.
sudden there's the last, and I can't even hear myself because the was just going off. And I went, wow.
so
this
you
is-
were doing like literally the PA, like the
Yeah.
goal scorers and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
was,
that. Good for you.
I was
he was
Vince
Vince.
Jr.
He was Vince Jr.
I was Vince
for that,
Jr.
so.
Hopefully, shout out to Vince. Hopefully, he's feeling okay.
Yeah, he was. I saw him yesterday at the game.
Oh, so you like, I know that you guys explained the story, but I guess it was just, I didn't truly hear the whole thing. So
Well,
you
he had
showed
to
up.
go to get a procedure done.
Okay.
And all signs point to him being okay.
Good,
Oh,
good.
good.
And now recovery time, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect time to have that procedure because they got 2 weeks between
Yeah,
home
yeah.
games.
Yeah.
We'll
And
get
so
well
hopefully
soon,
We'll get
Vince.
well
is,
soon,
or
Vince.
hopefully Vince is good to go.
I'm having a blast doing this, and one of the things I do have a blast with is all the kids on the team. They're great.
Yeah.
They're fabulous young men. They all call me by name. They all say hi. They all do this, and
Like Mr. Vader's or like.
no, they call me Les.
Oh, right on.
And one of the things we talked about, if you get suspended, I call them the convicts, and they have to come on, and in between periods.
Oh, okay, when they're
interview,
suspended.
right? When
Right.
they're suspended
Yep.
because of the convicts.
don't
we don't
be
talk
shy.
about suspension. So Aiden Wilson, he was suspended Friday night. So I said, Aiden, you got to come up at the first intermission. He says, okay. He says, how do I have to dress? I said, Aiden, it's just on.
I'm
the
on
internet.
radio.
It's
What
on
does
the
that
internet.
tell you?
Yeah, it's
You
on
got the
internet. It
perfect
doesn't matter.
radio fit.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So Aiden comes up and he's dressed to the
Look
nines.
at us, kid.
Yeah.
Do we
Right.
look like we're on
Yeah.
TV?
Yeah.
Honestly.
He's dressed to the nines. He's got his suit on. He's got his winter tie. He's got his pocket handkerchief and everything, and his nice shine suits.
Love
And I said,
it.
Aiden, I said, I told you. It's just on the internet. I said, I had to look good anyways. So then Sunday I had Zach Schooley for one of the intermissions because he's injured. So he come up and talked to me, and I said, Schooley, I said, Aiden's sitting in front of us here, and he's dressed to the nines again. He goes, yeah, I can't keep up with Mr. Wilson. So they know the rules.
One
Another
thing about that I'll
Yep.
just mention about Aiden and Zach and Carter Petrie on Friday night, and just to go to the whole group.
Yep.
Like, we do think we have a fabulous group of young men, and we try and do that every year, and I'm sure every team in the league does. But it's something that we really pride ourselves on, and good human beings in our program as well. But Friday night we hosted the U16 Lakers,
Yep.
right? And so after they got acknowledged on the ice, I gave them a tour of our area. And a lot of times the guys who are scratched or injured or whatever will just get out of Dodge here, right? They don't want to be around for the tour. All three of those guys sat in their room and went all through the tour. They followed us to the gym. asked any questions.
That's awesome.
Quinn Elder jumped in as well. He jumped in the room and he told a story about Hayden Frayne to the group. So, we're really, really lucky, and I'm glad those guys continue to come up and see you and talk to you.
Quinn's a great
during the
kid.
games.
I've never heard the word no from any of them. Carter Petrie said, I don't think so because I'm not sure about it. But then Dominic Marshall, when he was suspended,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll go
Dominic's
back.
problem is shyness.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the Cambridge second game in Cambridge. General couldn't be there. Brian couldn't make it. So I'm like, who do I get to do the color? And Jamie Nigro says, I'll do it. I'm like, I don't know, Jamie. He goes, well, we can bring Bruce. And I'm going, no, we can't bring Bruce. And I just was laughing at it. And I said, Cole, you're suspended. Why don't you do it? Cole goes, sure, I'll do it. So he'd come on to the first period, and he was a little nervous and all that. And I'd ask him some questions, and he'd answer them during play. And he goes, I'm going to take the second period off. I said, okay. And then halfway through the second, he goes, can I come on for the third? So that's fine. So the next night the next game on the bus, he says, he's second game of his suspension. He goes, General, he says, are you feeling okay? He says, if you're not feeling okay, I'll take over for you. I'm like, it's just led by example.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
right from the top. He's still stuck with 4 more points, and we had a little discussion about that, but he'll get it. He'll get
For
it.
sure.
He wants to get it. He's really pushing for the 100 points in the career because it's a big
That's
milestone.
awesome.
We've talked about it a lot. It's a big milestone in Junior B.
Stop thinking about it. It'll
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
and Nagy has guaranteed me before the last game of the season he will get his 13 points, and I said good.
Yeah.
I said
Nice.
you can get all 13 in one game. I don't care.
You got Caledon coming up soon, don't you?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't see them again. We had them once, but that's it.
Yeah, that's Jason, just before we move on or anything else, first game back we played London on the Friday night right before the deadline. That could be a telltale sign of what maybe you and Nick might have to do going into the deadline. True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. There's lots of irons in the fire if we can use that. Right now, as everybody's tweaking because everyone's so tight, right? And it's maybe that one more guy, a guy that we talk about a lot amongst myself and Willie and guys that were around here in 14 and 15 when we won the Cherry Cup was a guy like Xander Pryor that we picked up from Brantford real late, right? Didn't have a lot of points in Brantford. It was decent point wise, but came in here and just was a perfect fit and was a phenomenal playoff performer for us.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not easy to do, but we're continuing to look to see if there's any tweaks that we can make that make us better. But if not, like I said earlier, right, we're 3 points behind the team that went to the Sutherland Cup that has the majority of their group back. Like we're not afraid of anybody, but it's a full-out war starting with London.
Yep.
Once we get back again, a race to March.
A race to the final because it's happened before. We talked about that miracle in the last Cherry Cup when we added a goaltender and we went on that run.
Yeah.
Which it's hard to see us matching playing in the Western Conference because the Western Conference is so tight. And I talked to all the other announcers and 519 guys all the time, and they said they can't wait for the first round because it's going to be 4 series that are going to be more important than ever.
There's going to be a lot of bottom lips hanging out after that series, after the
There's
first
going to
round.
be some good hockey clubs going home after the first round.
Well, it's kind of like the NHL, like where, the Leafs will have their best statistical season, and then who do they get in the first round? The defending Stanley Cup
Montreal.
champion. Well, no, but I mean like in previous
the other
years.
year.
You're
Okay.
referring
Like
to
where
the
they were either going to play Tampa, Boston, or Florida. Like pick your poison, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the reward we get for having our best statistical season. So
Those days are over.
I don't think there's
Right.
going to be a reward for anybody in
No.
the Western Conference.
Yeah, the only reward is possibly an extra home game.
Yes,
Right.
the home ice advantage.
Yeah.
Home ice
Right.
advantage, and how much that plays into each series, I don't know. I think it plays a good advantage for Game 7.
Yeah, it played into us with LaSalle the last 20 days.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get that extra.
Couple different teams, right?
Yeah. It's just, you go down to LaSalle, it's a different rink, and it's a quiet rink.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
It's a dangerous rink, too. A couple pucks come off the boards in the one corner and come through the netting and
Yeah.
almost take the general out. I'm like, I want to duck.
Get him a visor.
Get him a
Or a helmet, whatever works.
Yeah.
Right.
So like I said, this is the first year we've, as Warrior fans, Colton fans, or whatever, where every game is so important.
Mm-hmm.
There is no night off. There is no, oh, we got this team coming to town. This should be an easy game. It's not, because Kamoka is giving teams fits.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to, St. Mary's fans saying, well, we got to play Kamoka 3 more times, and we don't like playing Kamoka.
Right.
So
They tend to play down to Kamoka.
Yeah, kids. Right?
Yeah,
Again,
it is.
Say the darndest
is.
things.
It
I've
is.
seen it so
It
many
is.
times. They look
Back
at the
to young
standings,
guys.
go, "All we got to do is throw our sticks on the ice, and we'll win 8-0." Well,
Yeah, for
You
And
gotta
that
score.
hasn't stopped in
no, that's not
30
new.
years,
That's
right?
not new at
No.
all.
So,
Oh,
and,
for
and
sure.
talking to Zach Scully on Sunday, I asked him, I said, do you pay attention to the standings? He says, oh my gosh, it's so close. I've never seen it like this in my whole life. He says, I love this.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah. Well, every game's a big game, right?
Yeah.
Like
It
they get up.
is.
And if you can't disclose, I understand, but is Scully out for a bit, or is he?
I would say week to week right
Okay.
now. With
All
the,
right,
with
fair
the
enough.
break.
He said he's not going to use that hand to eat anything this week. He
So
should
that
be-
was an upper body injury. I
Yeah.
guess it's the hand.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want
It's
anybody
the
to get
hand.
the wrong impression
the
about
hand.
what's actually injured on Zach Scully.
Yeah.
He's been working on being.
Well, that's just
ambidextrous.
had
Chelsea-
2 Miller
he-
Lights, so we're
He's told everybody what's
Everything's
wrong
out.
with him.
Everybody knows his old man, and his old man's a tough guy, and he's telling him you got to
Well-
be ambidextrous if you want to make it in this world. So.
and Clark, I was mentioning about Scully when it was a bit of a slow start against the Lincolns, and he was just that firebomb that kept
He was.
making those hits and
Yeah.
being heavy out there, and the building was quiet, and he just put his head down and got to work, and I just think that's the best element for him when he plays his best hockey.
I've started calling him the little ball of hate.
Yeah.
Because he
I
gets
felt
it in
like
him.
he grabbed that club
Yeah.
and ripped him up by the skate laces.
That night?
Right, that night, absolutely.
100%.
I thought he was totally the
Yeah.
catalyst who got
Yeah.
that team.
Well, the only people that will really know this would be Les and I, unless anyone's watching a game on Flow Hockey. But in LaSalle, Willie calls a timeout.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
we're
yeah.
down 3-0, I think.
And Willie had some choice words for because where I was sitting, I heard every single word, and they were all choice words. But it needed to happen at the time.
Yeah. And Zach Scully coming out of that timeout was a player that, we haven't seen,
Yeah.
right? And not that we haven't seen, because I think he's been really good. But he just had extra jump, and he was running over guys after guys after guys,
And
shift after shift. And so I had a text conversation with him, because he had a 3-hour drive home, and so did I.
Right.
And so I just talked to him about the importance of how good of a player he can be, not only for himself, but for our hockey club when he plays that way. And
He
he's-
played that way against St. Mary's.
Yeah, he's going to have to pick his spots, because that's a tough season to
Yeah,
play
yeah.
like that for 60 minutes every night.
And he's
it's not
not
like
a big guy.
It's not like he's 6
Right.
foot 190, right?
Right.
But he, with the power that he has in his stride, and he hits like a guy that's
Yeah.
probably
He does.
210 pounds, right?
He reminds me of a Darcy Tucker.
He
Yeah.
plays with sandpaper at all times.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
he turns it up,
Yeah.
He's
But,
one of those
uh,
guys, when he hits you, he's not stopping to hit you. He's going
When it goes through you,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
why he's so. And he has to be at 100 and whatever he is, 165.
Yeah.
But and you're right, Holly. And it just that was the point of the Lincoln's Warriors game that night, the alumni night. He kept things rolling. He kept things moving for your hockey team when the building was quiet. Your team needed a bit of a jolt, and
Yeah, we needed a goal,
yeah.
right? It was
Yeah.
2-0 for too
Yeah.
long, and it was
And-
kind of
Yep.
quiet. And
He did
then, we needed that goal, and
So I just ask because he's effective in your lineup, and I hope he gets back soon.
There's
Yes.
another kid the last 3 weeks that I've really noticed, and he's really come out of his name comes out of my mouth in a lot of hockey games right now, is Drew Hodge.
I knew you were going to say
Yeah.
He has played so well. He scored that empty netter against LaSalle the other night, and I said to him, is that the longest goal you've ever scored? He says, I've never been close from back there.
Yeah,
And I said, well, you picked a good time to be close.
yeah.
yeah, he's been another great addition for us, and I love him. I
And when
talked to
you-
him Friday night after
Yep.
the game too. Like, I just think, much like you said there, I think his game is continuing to come, and he's a steady guy for us back there. He plays physical.
Yep.
And
I
he
think
does
it's-
have he's sneaky,
Yes.
skilled wise, right? Like,
Yep.
he's good player. I like him on the power play as well.
Yep.
I don't make the power play decisions, but I'm upstairs. But I like him on the power play as well.
And I think it's hilarious when he's out there with one Nicky. as a pairing because Wojnicki's the tallest guy.
That's Mutt and Jeff right there.
And Drew Hodge is a lot shorter than Wojnicki.
Yeah.
What's he listed at 5'8"?
5'8", I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Clarkie, as far as I'm concerned, I want to congratulate you on a great first half, and you brought you and your staff and the coaching and Parsi and all them. What a great setup for your first half, and you'll be on again. But we wish you a really good second half here in the trade deadline. I know you're going to be busy with having a look around and assessing what you guys need to go on a run, but we're really looking forward to enjoying the rest of the year for guys like Lou and Schooley who are in their final chapter here, but going into the playoffs. Congrats. We'll look forward to a lot more of it.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. And like I said, we're really excited about our group, and I can't take all the credit. The phenomenal staff that we have in place that does all the work on the road too. Guys that don't get any of the credit are guys that are out all week that are on our scouting staff, right? That aren't at the rink on a Friday night and they're doing their own thing with their own teams. But the amount of players that they get eyes on and put on a list for us to make those decisions that you talked about, Razor. We bring in a couple hundred kids over 4 days and trying to whittle it down.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's those guys that are doing all the hard work. So our scouting staff, I can't say enough for them.
Yeah, and I said to General on the broadcast yesterday, I said, we got 20 games left. I said, it's now a sprint to the final because it's 20 games. Everybody's
A sprint,
ready
but
to
one
go.
game at a time.
But one game at a time, but there is no easy game.
Yeah.
I do like our travel schedule a lot better in the next 20 games.
Yeah, we
but
got the big trips out of the way before Christmas, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Couple trips to Sarnia. That's an easy,
One trip to
easy
Sarnia,
hour
so
town.
we're
Yeah, it's like going to Caledon, though.
Yeah.
It's not a big trip, really. It's all right.
as long as the
Yeah.
weather's good,
One,
it's okay.
an episode and a half at the office.
Somebody asked if we were having a trade deadline podcast. I said, it's not that exciting.
No, it's not like that. No.
Yeah, but you said that last.
Yeah.
Not us.
Yeah.
It's not that exciting.
Yeah.
We're not that exciting either most nights, but
Yeah.
It's
it
all
is what it
good.
is.
Well, we're looking forward
right.
to the new year, and Clarkie will definitely have you on before the playoffs just to talk about who your first round opponent will be. And
We'll have him on for the top 50, too.
well,
'cause,
with that as well, but
he's going to host it, I think.
Wow, that's going to be awesome. There's going to
it'll be
be
fun.
yourself, Les, Jeff, myself, John Kastner. Is there anybody else?
A bunch of the guys that are I've sent it out. Anybody that is on the selection committee, if they want to come up and watch the podcast,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Oh,
we'll
we
figure
didn't
it out.
discuss that.
We're
A
gonna
crowd.
we're gonna have an audience.
Holy jeez, I piddle a
You
bit
know.
when I get nervous.
Yeah. And if when we get down to the final 50, maybe we can try and talk some of these top 10 guys maybe showing up. I know one guy that's pretty interested to come on the podcast, and that might be a time to have him on.
We'll
So
see.
He'll be
Yeah.
there. He'll be in the top 10.
It's going to be interesting. I had a lot of people with the Lincoln's game, the alumni night, talking to me. Like the buzz is there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, and names are being thrown around, and I played with a couple of
Yeah,
them. And
I'll say
it's-
one thing. Jason Clark has the hardest decade, I think.
Which one's yours, Clarkie?
The last.
The last one here, like the last 10
Last
years.
10 years.
Gotcha. Okay, so just quick go through who, if you
So
can.
John Kastner has the first decade. Steve Rice with the second. Wendell Archer has the third. Corey Smith, who's handed his in, had the one before Clarkie and then Clarkie. So
Wow.
we need to get them all in early January so we can
A couple
get a
of
meeting
people
and
in the
whittle it
chair are going, is Gary Ray on the? I go, what would he know?
What
He only
would
played
he
with
know, right? I'm just blessed to be talking about him.
Oh, it'd be great.
I'm just glad that
I talked to John the other day again, and he said he's got it, but he said, man, he just keeps flip-flopping back and forth. And
Right.
He said he thinks Steve Rice has 50 players
Wow.
from that decade.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a certain era that is just
When you
Over
do the
the top.
70s,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they were one of the best teams in the province every
Yeah.
bloody year.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
got 85 to 95, so he's got some good years in
yeah.
there.
I mean, I think
Oh,
I was
okay.
telling Razor on the alumni night, right? Like you look at a player and you're seeing a guy. Okay, he was here for 80 games. He had 130 points, and you're like, that's a great
Yep.
career with the hockey club. And then you scroll out of your decade, you see someone that had 300 points and 700 penalty minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Like it's not even close.
Yeah.
Right?
Like guys are getting 130 points in one season.
Yeah, exactly.
I had somebody ask me. I said, "Well, how do you figure out which order they go in?" I said, "Well, that'll be a tough pot."
Right.
And they said, "Well, what about Jamie Hartnett?" I said, "Well, the guy has the most games played, the most points." I said, "So you can put him in one of two spots." And
Yeah.
they go, "Oh, really?" I said, "Well, I don't know where else you put him."
Yeah.
But you
due to
can
the
bring
fact
up
of what
you
he
can bring
did.
up so many
Oh,
names,
yes.
and I was talking Friday night at the alumni game with a few a few fans, and talking about the top 50, and we're rhyming off names that are really easy, and I said Rick Mullins, he was here for 1 year, he's from Utica, scored 112 points in one season. Oh, what year? And I'm going, whatever, I can't remember what year it was, but there's so many. And you said you were talking about captains. I said, well, you're going through all the captains. What about Greg Klim? Oh,
Yep.
no, didn't.
Travis
Think about that.
Hofstadter. There's a guy that played a
Yeah.
lot of years here. Doesn't have the points.
It's whatever you
Yeah.
categorize it as.
Yeah.
Is it points, or is it service, or is it whatever? Like
Yeah.
it's
It's
Anyways.
not an exact science, and
It'll be fun.
We talked with Kastner about it at Ian Denemy's book launch, and he just said he's so glad that it's not like the inter-county when they were picking those, because it was rigid. You had to have played 5 years. You had to have been on an all-star team. And he said this is like not black and white, because some guys only played 1 year.
Right.
Well,
Do you
that's the
leave
difference.
it?
Like
Do you leave
when
it
you're
at
the
old Chuck
IBL,
off?
You're back on your way down by and large, and you can play for 10 years in
Right.
the IBL. Whereas some of the best juniors only played 1 year because they were too good for this league.
At old Chuck, Chris Pronger,
On the move.
Rob
Carson
Blake.
Farmer is one that comes to mind right away. He could have been one of the greats too, but
Right.
he's busy playing at a higher
and
level.
and just connecting on your comment. Congratulations,
For
Ian
what?
Dunamy.
Yep.
Yeah,
Selling
sold
out
out, yeah.
his
The hard
first
copies.
order of
We
the
said-
Stratford Arena.
We said, hey
Book.
guys, get your books. Sold out 300
300
hard copies.
books.
And he's the #1 soft copy on Amazon right now, beating Matt Sundin's book.
Yeah.
Like, it's unreal.
Yeah,
Unreal.
He was up in the booth there peddling one to Holly, I think, Friday
No,
night.
he was getting me to do a promotion,
Oh.
which is clearly why the book sold out.
Yes.
But
Because I got on this big crowd that was there on a Friday night, and I went, yo, there's only like 15. That's the famous one, eh?
Right.
The flashing blue light special going on in the front
Yeah.
lobby.
Kmart.
Well, I
But,
said to him, I said, do you have any Domino's Pizza coupons left? And he goes, Razor, they're long gone. He goes,
Yeah.
books sold out. And I'm like, dude, that is awesome.
so big congratulations to our great friend Ian.
Yes.
So much work put into it, so many hours put into it, many, many, many great people that he was able to have conversations with about the book. He's grateful for every single conversation that he had with every single person involved. What a great celebration. Congrats,
Awesome.
Ian.
And I did ask him, because I know people are going to ask us, are there going to be any more hardcovers? The answer is no, because he said the price, like he self-published this, and he said the costs have gone up, so it's not, as cost
It's not
effective
feasible.
anymore.
Yep.
So he said, unfortunately, you can only get the soft paperbacks on
30
Amazon.
cent cheap price for a hardcover.
For
book
sure.
these days.
There's books, though, like Matt Sundin's, I forget the price, but his is one of the most expensive.
It's
and
$24.99. So.
and it's like selling out.
Yeah.
Like it's the #1 hockey book on Amazon right now. So kudos to Scoop.
Congrats,
That's
our
awesome.
friend.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
All right, so the Irish back in action Saturday night.
wow.
I gotta
What a
say,
week.
Yeah,
What a week.
What a week. And it was nice to see the people show up.
Absolutely.
I was thoroughly impressed with the number of people there. Jason texted me and asked me how it looked. Some of the other executive were down to watch the game, which was just nice to see them in the audience. 'cause
Yeah.
It started out as a no-hitter, which, we figured it was, but it turned into one hell of a game. Like I was texting Clarky, I said, it's getting spicy, but that might be the Miller Lights talking.
Right. Well, in full disclosure, everybody knows, Holly and I love pie. Like everybody does. Let's get that out of the way. But to see a friend go through what he did for 10 seconds of indiscretion, it's just unfortunate. And we love you, Pie. Everything's going to be okay. The sun is going to come up tomorrow, and the the Stratford Irish would not be in Stratford if it wasn't for Jamie Petrie.
I think there was, 500 people there maybe?
Yeah. Like,
And I think Jeff Morris went around and thanked everybody.
Jeff Morris is an absolute rock
He
star.
is a gem.
He is came up into the Armchair Chirper zone, and it was packed up there, and I love it. Like, we had the fountains and just,
Lauren
Brent Zimmer-
Twomley.
Lauren
Lauren
Twomley, Brent
Twomley.
He's like,
Zimmerman.
I love that gentleman. He's
Like,
so
it
good.
was great. Lauren's one of our biggest fans.
Everywhere I turned, Lauren was there.
Yep.
And I go to the urinal in the washroom, and Lauren's there, right? And I come out, and he shakes my hand. I said,
That's a lot of
Lauren. I said, Lauren, I just saw you in the washroom with that,
Go
Lauren.
urinate, and there he is.
He was just everywhere.
But it
He's hilarious, though.
after the game. So for those that weren't there, Stratford was down by a goal. 10 seconds. Now in the first period, Stratford had 2 posts and a crossbar. They could have been up 4-1 easily. Instead, I think it was tied 1-1 after 1, but they end up scoring with 10 seconds to go in the third period to send it to overtime. And then Pekka scores in overtime from Murray and Granger. It was just Brulot scored from Palillo with 1:02 left in overtime. And it was just a great energy feeling with everything that has gone on, the uncertainty, the turmoil. And I was talking with Jeff Morris and Coach Dave Cassoni afterwards, and Mo brought out the 14-year Scotch. He was so fired up and pumped, and just to see the supporters, like the sponsors, Patrick Sealing from Domino's Pizza was there, Blaine Myers from Joe's Diner was there. Like, it was just great energy, and it felt like a healing process with Stratford scoring. And I don't know how much I can say, but it sounds like the Irish are the ship is still going straight. And I don't want to reveal what's going on, but folks, come out. You're not going to be disappointed. The action is there. I almost won $700 throwing the puck at the garbage
For
can.
7 weeks almost.
Right? Almost.
He's been
It's
almost
like
he's
horseshoes,
been close all
right?
week.
Hey, you saw what happened.
I did.
I almost did it on my own, but then as the puck stands there at the garbage can, then someone almost hit my puck to make it go in, and like.
See, that's why I don't buy pucks, because if your puck was there, I'd be humming my puck, making sure yours didn't go in.
Well, or ricochet mine in the hole.
Or just
right?
knocking the barrel to the other side of the ring.
Some people are actually hucking it, at the end, and I'm like, dude.
Some people throw it and it hits the inside of the glass and almost hits people
right? Who
like
would
in the
do
crowd.
something like that?
Talking about the game, though, there was a penalty shot in overtime.
Exactly.
You know, and you rarely see those in overtime. But
No, and
it was the right call.
it was the right call.
Yeah.
The guy Stratford felt the heat, so they pushed the net off, and we all looked at each other, you, Jeff, and I, and said, "That's a penalty shot." And the referees and linesmen talked, and then he pointed to center. I'm like, "Here we go in overtime."
I don't know why he didn't point right away, but
Right.
It's all good.
I think he wanted to just confer. I thought I saw nobody, in Stratford unobstructed pushing the net off, but
because they had a clean shot on net right after the net went off, right?
Exactly.
Just penalty shot.
No, it was so good.
And the guy hit the post. You can't beat my little friend.
Right. Yeah, and that's what it was on the penalty shot.
Yeah.
But it was just a great overall night. And I was so glad on behalf of the Fighting Irish to get that win. They're back in the game, to see the energy and all the volunteers and everybody all chipping in, everyone supporting us in the Chirpers zone.
Yeah.
It was a great feeling, and the ending couldn't have happened any better.
And their next game's Friday the 27th. They're the only game in town.
Right.
The only hockey in town. So
yeah.
there should be no excuses why that place can't be.
Yeah, I think it's
fuller,
Tilbury,
'cause
if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's good hockey.
It is good hockey, and folks, the
Clarkie's-
beers are
Clarkie's
flowing
got
up.
a little connection to the Alveston team, so
Oh, does he? Okay, all right.
What's that, Clarky?
My daughter's boyfriend plays for Evanston.
Oh, he does. I did not know that.
Just a boyfriend,
That's why-
so he can.
That's why. Why he sauced us with the beers in the playoffs last year, so we wouldn't get on the boyfriend.
Now, what position is he?
He's a forward, plays right wing. Usually Ryland Bowers is his name.
Okay,
Nice.
we'll make sure to look out for him.
Wow,
He works
he's-
here in town or Perth County. He works for Perth County, right?
County Perth, yeah.
He is lucky to play with like Feezy and McEwen. Like those are such skilled players. Like
They got a really good group of
they
guys.
really do.
Yeah, they do.
They are they've only lost one game all year. I don't see them losing in the regular season, but hey, playoffs, a short series, anything can
Yeah,
happen.
it's a different
right?
game.
It really is. And those fans are rabid there.
Yeah.
Like
I've never been. My daughter's been a number
It's-
of times, but
It's like
you got to get
Dufferin.
there early to get
You
in.
do. It's like Dufferin, but only
But with a jumbotron.
Oh my God! Yeah, it basically is a jumbotron. Yeah, that they've got at the one end there. But
So I know lots have been going on in Holly. You've chosen certain avenues to go down and all that with our good friend, but you wanted a little bit of mic time tonight to reflect on a little bit. So we'll let you let you say your piece.
Well, it's obviously been a really difficult time for a lot of people, including myself, being, if you want to call an OG with the club, we started talking about this hockey club pretty much a year before they even played a game. First of all, I just want to say what an absolute statement by the players to show that kind of character and commitment to play the kind of game that they played. There was every reason to kind of mail this one in. And it couldn't, I agree with something that you said about healing, and that's the word that I'm thinking of, frankly. My issue, and obviously it's been a roller coaster ride the last 10 or 11 days. I am proud to say Jamie Petrie is a good friend of mine. And I remember in 2016 when my son played for the Western Mustangs, and they were 4 minutes away from winning the Yates Cup and up 18 points. And they blew it. They blew that lead. They gave up a touchdown. They fumbled the ball. And Laurier scored a last-second field goal to win the game and win the championship. And Coach Marshall came back into the room, and he said, nothing I say is ever going to, and I'm paraphrasing because I wasn't in the room, nothing I say here is going to assuage the anguish that you're going through right now. But one thing that I will not allow for this football team is to let one negative moment define you. And that is what I remember about Jamie Petrie. I am not happy about some people that are taking the opportunity to just pile on. Jamie Petrie made a terrible, terrible error in judgment. Nobody's arguing that. Not even he. He's owned it. But for people to go online, hiding behind computers, and going off on him, it's just so disappointing. I choose to remember what defined him leading up to that moment. Not only has his hockey club been raising money for cancer, it was his directive that had every team in the league having a Hockey Fights Cancer game. Every team in the OSHL is having a Hockey Fights Cancer game. So he's raising money for cancer. Does everybody remember Baby Bo? Baby Bo, for those who don't know, is a young, very young boy who was very, very sick, and his family simply couldn't afford all of the things that were necessary to get him healthy. And in a league where you have 12 home dates, he gave up all the revenue from one of those home dates to give to the family to help them get Baby Bo back going again. Just 2 weeks ago, he was the guy who was getting uniforms made by Fred Gondor and auctioning them off to raise money for ShelterLink to help out the homeless at Christmas time. Every single Christmas time, there was a trailer from Camp Out Trailers parked out in front of the rink, and it was filled with toys and other presents for the needy kids. So while you acknowledge that he made a really bad mistake, and there is no excuse for it, I want to make sure that everybody who doesn't know Jamie Petrie knows that that is what defines him, not the one moment where he gave in to temptation. And that's That's all I can say about that.
Well said.
Well said, brother.
Yeah, we all know. Like I've known Jamie forever. Jason, you've known Jamie for a long, long time.
Yeah, I'd call him a real good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens, but I just hope what I think, like hockey players, us being hockey fans, we have short memories.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
That's basically what Halser and I said to him. We went and talked to him on Tuesday night last week, and I said the good news is that this world has very short memories, and it didn't make him feel better, but at least it put a smile on his face, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I love the guy. And Halser, you hit the nail on the head. Like, he's done so many good things, and to have 1 10-second lapse of judgment define him is wrong. And I just want everybody to know that nobody's perfect, but at the end of the day, he did the best that he could, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow, brother. Love you.
All right. Well, it's that time. Before I do my usual, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. At this table, I want to thank everybody for another fabulous first half of our season. Jeff and Razor, you guys, we have our ups and downs sometimes. Some of the text messages are hilarious sometimes. And other ones are like, was he mad at me, or
Yes.
It's when I get those when I get those old caps. And Brian for always sticking your neck out and coming up here or helping me out at the hockey games or whatever. And Jason Clark for everything you've done.
He's been on twice.
He comes on, but anytime we ask, he's been on 3 times.
No, last year.
Yeah, he was one
Doesn't
of
that count?
Well, I guess.
Yeah, I got
Well,
cut after last year. Trying to redeem myself.
Just
Tough
kidding you,
crowd,
Clarky.
Clarky. Tough
Yeah,
crowd.
tough
I'm
crowd.
just kidding you.
That's
But
all right.
no, it's for everything you do with the hockey club, everything you do for me. When I ask a question, you have the answer. You get me the answer. I don't think you've ever said no. I'll make it work is usually what I hear.
Yeah, and I don't think that word enters my mind when I'm talking to you, Les.
Yeah.
And we can't thank you enough for the job that you've done to step in and jump right in to call our games. And I talk to a lot of people around too, and they think you're doing a fantastic job. And so we really appreciate the excitement that you bring.
I'm
to
happy
Hockey
to
Club.
do it. Yeah.
And one thing that we talk about in the management group and talking about games that we've talked a number of times is we love your enthusiasm about the hockey club.
Yep.
and you're in on every play and up and standing.
He's
and
the Joe
don't screw it.
Bowen.
Yeah, exactly. And carried right on from Casey. It
Yep.
did a great job for us, right? And you just jumped right in there, and we haven't skipped a beat.
Yep.
So
Speaking of Casey Kenny, I get a text message the other day from Casey Kenny. He says, "Look what I have." He sends me a picture. He's got a pass to the World Juniors
I saw that.
as a journalist. And I texted him back. I said, "A journalist?" And he just responded. He says, "I'm a Senators fan too." But so yeah, he's got a
That's awesome.
solid pass. All right. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Just start the conversation.
And tuning out to episode 45, we wanted to thank you. We didn't explain this, but we are in 17 countries globally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everywhere from Singapore to Hong Kong to Norway to Sweden to South Africa. Probably the locals traveling abroad, but listen, this
There's
little
that
guy,
one Swedish guy still.
this one Swedish guy,
Your buddy's in Taiwan. listens to-
Taiwan, yeah, exactly, and
Are we going to do a live show in Amsterdam soon?
well, we'll see the
Red
corporate
light.
helicopters in the garage, but once we get it out, we'll see
Get the bad copter.
see what we can do.
can we
But,
talk hockey on that one?
We just especially wanted to thank all of you for all of your support, all the awareness, all spreading the word, supporting us, the great kudos that you give us when we're at the hockey game or we're out and about at the grocery store. Even getting back full circle to the individuals we reached for some of the sponsors that we have. We really truly appreciate everything that everyone is doing. It's great momentum, especially our very generous sponsors that have put their trust in us to put their name associated with this podcast. But for me personally, from my family, we'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the best to everyone in 2025, and we will be back with a vengeance.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, and Razor, just so everybody knows, Razor and I will be back next Monday.
Yes, yeah, you're going to be on
be
a
in
beach in
Florida.
Cuba?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so,
See how that works.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe
wish-
I'll tune in if I get Wi-Fi. Who knows?
Right. Well, we're going to
Yeah.
upgrade our system so that we can.
Technically,
have
that's 18 countries globally.
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
All right.
So definitely
Thanks,
Les and I, probably Halser if he's available.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed back, you know.
Yeah.
What's your calendar like now? We'll just ask now.
I think it's too early to ask me.
Oh, okay.
I
Monday
can only
morning.
commit- I can't commit with any more than 18 hours of notice.
Right.
Monday morning. Okay. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody.
Christmas, everybody.